AskGunQuestions.com is a website that we built back in 2007, and since then, for the last 15 years, people have been able to ask questions of simple to advanced nature, and we attempt to answer them in different ways over the years. Join us now as we start a new series to answer gun questions.
And welcome everybody to our show. We go live on Saturdays, answer questions for you live, and riff on things because we're chatty people, I guess. We just like to talk. So we got Tony joining us from New Jersey. Thanks for jumping in.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And I'm trying to figure out, can I get my things? I thought we could have like a more medium size here. But anyway, we'll see if anybody joins us right away with questions. I don't think we had any from the last show. We probably did, and I'm just not thinking of them. But what happened this week? What's been going on?
We hosted the Second is for Everyone diversity shoot at Recoil Range in Monroe, New Jersey. It was really a lot of fun. We had new people. We had dad bring his daughter and his son out. Son turns 15 next month, I think he said, and the daughter's 14. So what did my stepmother call them? Irish twins. So they were there. That was the second time. Very responsible kids, very well-mannered children, and just had a great time shooting everything from, I think we might have had the 12 gauge, we had the ARs, we had the every handgun you can imagine, from, a steady, I think a Glock, 22 caliber Glock pistol up to Staccato's highest level. We had one of those out there. I think with everything he did to it, it was like $6,800. And it was just great. So I asked the kids what were their favorite guns. One liked the lever action from Marlin, and the other liked the lever action from Henry. The Henry, the one that takes the AR-15 magazine. So I just thought that was really cool. They have, something that probably is going to cost more than their first car as a handgun on the line, and they still love the old-fashioned lever actions. I thought that was pretty, there's hope for the next generation.
It is interesting for sure, but those lever actions can cost an arm and a leg, right?
Oh, they can be expensive. I think they're like $1,500 to $1,700, but they're nowhere near, where a Staccato costs, but they aren't cheap. That's right. Not how they are anymore.
Kids have a tendency to find things that, cost is no object to them, because it literally doesn't matter to them.
But they had fun, and then one of the ladies that came for the first time, her last event was the first time she ever came. She went home and I guess talked to her friends, and one of her friends came by who'd never fired a gun before, and she was there alone, and we made her feel comfortable enough to actually be ready to go out onto the range without her, even though she was a little nervous. She was like, yeah, my friend is supposed to be here, but she's not. And the girl came in, an hour late because she couldn't get off work, but she came in. And so we were having a discussion with them at the end, and the new visitor said she was nervous all until she shot her second handgun, and then she just went on a spree and fired everything we had, and said she had a great time and looks forward to coming the next time. So great success, and that's what I look forward to. We had the father and bring his kids for the second time, and we had this lady not only come for her second time, but brought a friend with her, and that's what it's all about. And the need and the conversations we had afterwards, because that's what I do now. I'm no longer in the port really being an instructor at every one of these. I will step in if we're short guys, but what I try to do as my part is to have those conversations. Why are you here? What do you expect? What's next? Just being a real person, but interacting with them to let them know this is more than just me trying to get you in here and get you to participate in the Second Amendment. My whole point of this is to let you see this as an activity, also an activity that you can have a great time and plan family fun around, but make a part of your life. So it's not just that thing in the closet behind, the suit that you break out for Easter and funerals, that's collecting dust, but a viable part of your life and one that you should fight for.
Well, there's no like, I mean, I think it's equally, what's the word? Like, I think it applies to like a fire extinguisher also. Like people should probably get training on a fire extinguisher. They should know how to use it. They shouldn't just buy one and assume that, they own one so they're resistant, they're like immune from fires. Like, you can use a fire extinguisher wrong, waste it, blow it into the wrong places, I guess, not affect the fire, and essentially, do you make that fire extinguisher useless. So most of the time we just don't have enough fires. Fires don't have like a Bloomberg who hates them. So there's not like a massive public campaign to like, demonize fires or anything. So, but I think in the same way that, or in an interesting way that guns have this community around them. So like a fire extinguisher, it's a lot of times you're buying it just to have it in case I'm buying this, hopefully I'll never need it, those kind of sentiments. But at the same time, okay, you're never going to need this. Hopefully you'll never need it. The worst case scenario is the only time you're going to need it. But then when you actually need to apply the thing, you should know at least the basic fundamentals and ideally some familiarization with it so that you're not fighting that learning curve. The first time you ever need to use it with all the things working against you physically, just adrenaline and stress and all that. So, if there was something like fire department or something sponsored come in, and they do this actually, but some sort of a like, we're going to set little fires or we're going to have barbecues on fire and we're going to show you how to effectively use a fire extinguisher in case you ever need to. You don't need to be a fire department, you don't need to be a firefighter, but you can learn how to use a fire extinguisher, right? It's sort of like that kind of thing. But there's no, I mean, except for like, hey, we're at a state fair, or we're at like a county park or something, and we're doing this little pop-up tent to provide education. There's no community around fire extinguishers. I mean, there might be some little one in the the industry or something, but as far as like guns are, it's like a mix between golf and like emergency preparedness, right? Sort of like first aid training and like a club that you would join, because guns offer the community with all the people that like guns and shooting and everything around it, and then just the CCW and the knowledge and the training and safety aspects and like the familiarization and all that. That breeds a community because there's an infrastructure for all that. You can't just go to any backyard anymore and shoot, unless you live in part of the country you can do that. So it requires a range, for an example, right? Like you can't just create ammo out of thin air. So there's an industry, there's a infrastructure to get ammo around the country, right? So unlike fire extinguishers where you buy them and you set it on the shelf and hopefully you never need it, if you do need it, it probably works because they're kind of solid devices. Guns work, but in order to use them effectively, you have to kind of practice and be familiar with them. And like I said, that just creates this whole like infrastructure. So I just think that's interesting that what you're doing is creating a place where people can get that initial understanding and then some familiarization with it, but then understand that there's this huge community also. So it's not just like a pop-up, like now you know how to use a gun. You got your little badge. Now put your gun in the drawer and live your life. Hopefully you never need it. Like, the attitude we give a fire extinguisher. And there's nothing wrong with that attitude. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, that's what's cool about the shoots that you do, because they're giving people that, I guess, giving them that, right? The ability to understand guns and that, but then also that understanding that there's this huge culture and community behind it. You're welcome. And, it might be a little daunting. Is that the right word? Like if you're not familiar
Yep.
with it, but they're not strange people. I mean, they might be strange, but they're not mean or, unwelcoming people. And once you figure out that you're as welcome as everybody else, then, you're welcome to explore this as much as you want. And that introduction or whatever, obviously, I mean, we talk all the time, but I just think that's cool. And the way you brought up that story where the lady was comfortable showing up at an event that she heard about from a friend. So right away, that friend must have described it in such a way that she had no apprehension about like, yeah, I'll just show up early. I'll show up and be there. And then when her friend couldn't get there, it was comfortable and she didn't like feel like, oh, I'm gonna go wait in the car or something, or maybe I'll just leave and come back next week or whatever. Anyway, I just thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, and it was really great, because the conversation we had afterwards, because I came up to her and I asked, before we even started, does anybody have a problem with their picture showing up on social media? Because we will not take your photo, for so, and if you don't want, there's zero pressure there. And then one of the guys, that this is the first time he's coming, and he was invited by one of the ladies that continually come. She told him he'd have a great time. Well, he showed up with a camera, a professional camera, and told people, "Hey, I'm taking photos for you personally if you want. If you don't want, I won't take your picture. But if you want a photo of you shooting a gun for the first time, or a certain firearm, or any of that, I'll take professional grade photos and just give them to you." And she actually agreed to that, so she could have, yeah, and she could choose, who sees her shoot a firearm, and doesn't have to answer those questions or deal with the negative connotations that her and that any negative interactions that may come about because it went out to the internet, and she had no control over who saw it. I thought that was pretty cool of him, and also of her for accepting it. I thought that was really, really cool. I have some of the best people come to our events. I think it's great.
So then let me ask this. How many people who showed up at the diversity shoot got shot this week?
Not one of them. We got her.
Oh,
we got our record.
By the photographer. You didn't let me finish.
Oh, well, yeah, those people. I have no idea how many really. I didn't ask, but he was so enthusiastic when he left. He was like, "Dude, I am so glad I came. I can't believe me." He shook my hand like 3 different times, thanking me for having the event and the fact that he can't wait to go to the next one.
That is cool,
because
though.
it was amazing to him. Yeah,
That's one of those things that
it really made me feel.
No, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. That's just made me feel good. That's all.
I was gonna say that's as a person who's like owned guns, I guess, forever, like just growing up with guns and stuff, like I don't think about or I don't often think about, I guess, unless it comes up, that people who decide as an adult to become gun owners just have a totally different experience or whatever. And then of course kids, who whatever age you are, like most kids, well, I don't say most, a lot of the people I know didn't grow up with guns, but at some point when we were young, were taken to a range, or through some club or organization or something, went to something like what you're doing, right? So that they got their first introduction to guns as a kid or whatever. And often with kids, and it's not rare at all for just first time people doing anything, riding a motorcycle, like first time I bungee jumped, right? You're going to get a picture taken. So I just think that's actually super cool to have. I mean, you didn't set that up or whatever, but just that, if that turns into a thing or whatever, just like that idea that there's a lot of people, think about all the people that you see posting pictures of their first target, they're just happy as crap because it's such a fun thing to do. And I don't think about it, but there's probably something to like the whole like mastering a fear or doing something that they said you can't. I mean, I don't even know all the trips people could have with guns, right? Like there's so much layers to guns and gun ownership, and even being open to the fact that guns aren't all evil or something. Like, so that's got to be such a I don't know what to call it, like an event for some people in their lives, right? And
Yeah.
anyway, I just think that's neat. That aspect of it is getting a picture of for their press, like you're saying, that they can take. And so unlike like, oh, you walked into a water park and you're getting your picture taken, what do they call it, like when you're on one of those roller coasters and everybody's just gets that picture where you're all scared coming down the hill. It's not like that where you're just getting this picture, but instead almost like an Oleg Volk, like a photographer, here's a nice picture, somebody knows what they're doing, frames it right, waits, knows when to click the button, takes like 17 shots so they can give you a good one. That's just a neat thing compared to the, here's a snapshot, here's your, you paid for the service and here's the snapshot, hopefully it was a good one. But anyway, I just think that's a neat element to it.
Yeah, it was really great. And I told him, I said, this is an opportunity. This is an intro, but this is an opportunity. If you choose to, you can meet some new people and actually form some new friendships. I mean, I'm saying this at the event to let you know, you can come in and never come back, or you can come in and just talk to people, and this can turn into friendships. And also, after we finish shooting, we're breaking bread, we're eating food, we're having prizes, I'm telling jokes. And then after it's over with, we have cigars in the parking lot after hours. So if you want to hang with us there too. And the guy was like, "Man, I wish I would have known that. I didn't bring any cigars." And Nick, one of our volunteers, went, "Oh, we got cigars if you want some. Like we even provide the cigars for you if you just want to." So he was he was like, "What?" I'm like, bro, we want this to be a fun outing. That simple. And yeah, so I expect he'll be there with cigars next time and his camera. Can't wait. Look forward to it.
And then, like, since these events, you have the events twice a month usually, but around
Mm-hmm.
New Jersey, and other places. But the people who show up to them show up like to the region. Like you don't get people that are showing up to all of them necessarily, but all the ones that get this shop or at this range.
What was that? I'm sorry.
Well, I'm just saying,
What
I'm
did you?
assuming, I think you mentioned it before too, though, that people don't show up to like every single one necessarily. You might have some people that show up to more than one, but most people show up to like the range, like all the times that you show up at, they show up to all of these ranges or all of these, event
Yeah,
locations.
yeah. We don't have people show up to everyone. We have some that go, okay, this one was in half an hour of my house. I'll go to these two, and it's great seeing them at those. Then we're far enough apart that we're close to most in Central and North Jersey. South Jersey, a little further. We might work. We will probably work on that in 2027. Um, but I have to put together a separate crew. I had someone reach out to me, so we may, more than likely, will be doing something in Florida before the end of this year. And someone contacted me and wants me out in Missouri or Michigan. And I was like, yeah, that we can have a conversation, but that's probably not happening. I have 4 trips planned this year, and that's enough. That's a lot. We have NRA coming up next month. Train and Learn coming up after that. Somewhere in between the two, I think, is GunCon, and then it's the trip to Tampa right after that. Hopefully September, October timeframe.
What's Tampa?
Tampa may be where we're having the
Oh, the one you're talking about.
284.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then GRPC, you're not bothering with? I don't even know where it is this year. GRPC, Houston, I think.
Yeah,
No,
I'm not doing JR.
and then what about
If I'm
goals?
No, unless they ask me to speak, that's a haul. If they actually fly me out and put me up, that makes it more acceptable.
Yeah,
But if
that's
I'm
still
doing it,
on a time off. I mean, I don't know too many jobs that give everybody time off every month or anything.
yeah, and I'm burning through my days instead of getting paid overtime, I work for comp time. So I don't get. I mean, look, I don't get paid for diversity shoots, but I think they're important to happen. So I take the time off to make sure they go off as best they can. But I can't. I've tried, and it's a hell of a switch to work half a day, have the car packed for the diversity shoot, and then turn off work me to snap into diversity shoot focused. It's really difficult. It takes a lot out of me because I have to be running wide open at the diversity shoot to be able to see things and do things and make it a fun experience for people. As one of the ladies say today, Thursday, I was running at 80%. I wasn't hyping it up as I usually do sometimes. Good days, bad. I mean, none of it is a bad day. It's just whatever you have to deal with going in. Last time, they forgot my order at the pizzeria. Like, totally.
That's weird.
And I'm
Since
like,
it's like many pizzas, you'd think they'd kind of be depending on it.
yeah, when you order half a dozen pies, you think someone will remember it. So,
But some places,
so
if they're dealing with clubs and businesses
Mhm.
and stuff, they might be dealing with 6 pizza orders constantly. So maybe that isn't a big order for some places.
Yeah, so half a dozen pies on a Thursday. Yeah, that's yeah. Half a dozen pies at one time on a Friday, not so big of a deal. But on a Thursday, yeah, that's something.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And it's in the evening, so it's not like a lunch rush type of thing.
Yeah, and then they lied, and that ticked me off even more. And I'm like, "Hi guys, I called earlier. Where's my order? Oh, the driver got lost. Well, ma'am, I have over 20 people here waiting on food. Is he close? Do you know where he is? He's a couple minutes away. I was like, ma'am, understand. You have until 10 after, and then I'm canceling the order. And I sat there and I stared at the clock like, I mean, at the security camera, just death stare at the parking lot because I'd sent people in to shoot. It was enough. You know what I mean? I sent them in to shoot. I couldn't hold my entire event up because of that. Luckily, we were at We Shoot, and We Shoot is in a large Orthodox Jewish community, and one of the pizzerias there donate 2 kosher pizzas. So if people are really hungry, I mean, I was like, look, if you want to eat pizza, we got the kosher pizza. We got others showing up later, but whatever. So the
Right.
people
At
that were
least
really hungry
they
were
were
happy.
the people that were like famished, like I came here to eat, had something.
Yeah, yeah, because it's known at this point that I will have food and drink. So some people don't eat. And it's from lunch. Now it's 7 o'clock at night. Yeah, you haven't eaten in 6 hours, 7 hours. So those people grab something. I said, because the other stuff's on the way. Man, 7:09, the vehicle pulled up. I had him come back. I had to calm down because again, I was irritated. And I help him with the boxes. Because again, that's part of me calming down, right? Let me be helpful and not a pain in the ass. Dude, I almost burned myself taking the pizza out of the box. I'm like, so he brought the drinks in, he brings all the cups in. I said, excuse me. And I pay him. And then I pull out a tip. And I was like, and he looks at it and I was like, hey, guy, I don't appreciate being lied to. You just let them know back at the shop. I don't appreciate being lied to. If you were lost for an hour, the pizza wouldn't have been scalding hot and almost burned my hand. He was like, yeah, dude, I was in the shop when they lied to you. All they had to do was tell you the truth. I was like, I would have been cool with the truth. Hey, we screwed up. We didn't put your order in or something happened. And we're making them right now.
Yeah,
Good to
exactly.
go. But to tell
At
me
least I
someone
let
was
you like
lost.
schedule and make appropriate, adjustments. But yeah.
Yeah, but to tell me the guy was lost and now I'm waiting on cold pizza to arrive. So it was good. It worked out. I tipped the guy, I think, $10, which is cool. Because I could have been a little doodle head and not tipped him anything because I was mad. But he made it happen. He bought the food. He got everything together. And I said, you just tell them lying doesn't help. Just tell them the truth. Most people understand it. And if they're gonna give that lying about food, it's gonna help. Anyway, that was that. The food was really delicious. The pizza was hot.
You're breaking up. Are you walking around? Is that your headset failing maybe?
Oh,
It's garbly and so it almost sounds like you're driving under a tunnel or something.
yeah, I hear it keep fading in and out. I didn't know whether it was me or my end or your end. I
It could
apologize.
be my end. Let us know if you're listening whose side it's on, because it's hard for us to know, because if your side's failing, it sounds like the other side's failing. So anyway, I don't know. I'm throwing up on the screen here. I don't know if we're allowed to throw this kind of stuff up here, but I'm doing it anyway. But
Nice.
so Pot of Gold Auctions has their auction site, right? And they do auctions pretty much every Tuesday, not quite every Tuesday, maybe depending on what kind of auction you're looking for. They do a lot of auctions over there. But they do an auction for Walk the Talk America, and that's coming up next Tuesday. So in 3 days ish, like 3 days and a couple of hours. And I'm just scrolling through some of the stuff here. Tony, have you had a chance to take a look at any of these yet?
I didn't look at any of them. No, I just reposted it and promoted it, but I didn't look.
Yeah, same here, because I figured whatever, it's an auction. I don't need a gun or whatever. But then Professor Yamane was posting some Glock that he won, and for some reason that made me go, yeah, this is an auction. What the heck? I'm gonna go look, because sometimes you get a really good deal, right? If nobody's bidding on anything. So so I had to go look over here, and what is there? Does it say how many? 400? No, that's not right. There are it goes from 350 to 400, I think. So there's maybe 50 items in here. That sounds about right. There's some stuff like these tripods for a camera, or maybe that's a tripod for a rifle. Now that I'm thinking about it, that's probably a heavier duty tripod for shooting off of. But anyway, there's stuff like that, and then some stuff that people have engraved, it looks like, and done work to, for specifically for Walk Talk America. And then some of these are just, I think, just stock guns, like just a gun, because I'm pretty sure this North American Arms doesn't have anything Walk the Talk America about it. Somebody just, donated this one. So $80 though. I mean, that's like half price or something at this point. But it's 3 days before, so these aren't anywhere near the prices
Yeah.
that sell for anything. But just kind of going through and looking, and I don't know if you can tell from the screen with it being as small as it is. Can I make this bigger? It's a little bigger. Like this is a portable air compressor, so that's kind of a random extra, or maybe that is for this probably. Now that it's not so random when you have a really fancy air rifle right next to it, so that's probably a thing that you use to pump up the fancy air rifles. And then a pepper ball launcher with some spray, and everything else is guns. So anyway, just thought I'd post that out there. I'm not going to post a link. I'm pretty sure I'll get in trouble for that. I don't know about showing it on the screen with the numbers and stuff, but those aren't, nothing is actually for sale here. It's just an auction. So anyway, I just thought I'd throw that and see if there's anything you saw in here that's worth chatting about. I don't know nothing about this MAC Zig M1911. I'm assuming that's a Turkish-made 1911. It looks cool. Kind of looks like an old 1911 with Packmeyers on it.
Well, the Zig is TSOS. That was what some of the TSOS guns were called, and what was stamped on some of those guns back in the day. Also, Bursa has their double stack 1911 on here. The 1911 military armory channel, right? Yeah, military armory that's on the right hand side. I think that's their JSOC. Nope, that's their Marine Corps MUSOC pistol, which pretty much is like $700-800. Really supposedly well made. Friends of mine own those.
This one on the screen right now, that's the one I was talking about.
Yeah. Yep, that's what you're talking about. Yeah, so they made that build look like a Marine Corps special operations back in the late 80s, early 90s. When I was there, that's what they carried. It was built in Quantico. With this picture is based, I mean, the gun is based on, obviously. These were hand built in Quantico for the Marines. And they burned through like 5,000 rounds of 5 HDP pre-deployment. That's how many rounds like they ran through individually on their handgun before they left to go on deployment. So I really want one of those. I actually requested it from SES Imports, and they sent me the PX9, which is also what I asked for, which is their striker fired polymer pistol. Also, I think I saw on that list they had Daria Arms, the one that looks like an M9 but two-tone. There you go. That's the Daria Arms copy of a Beretta, and it kind of looks like the Samurai Edge version from Raccoon City, from Resident Evil.
Yeah,
looks a little bit like that. And they have made those, and I heard people really like them. So if you can get one, because a lot of people don't know who they are, so they might not bid on it. And if you do bid on it, you'll probably get it at a great deal. Also, Bursa is right there. If you go down right there, that's Bursa's semi-automatic pistol with a really good trigger, and I think it's their competition version too, if I'm not right. Oh, do those sights look adjustable? Yep, that's the competition version. That thing has a very, very, very smooth trigger. And again, it's something most people won't know. It's now the regular version, of course, adopted by the Argentinian Air Force and I think police department. And this is the competition version of that with adjustable sights, longer barrel for a longer sight radius,
Is
and
this
much smoother trigger.
is this frame plastic or aluminum?
It's aluminum or steel. I think maybe aluminum, if I
Okay.
remember right.
This part's plastic though, like this grip thing that goes around the back. It looks like a Makarov to me. It doesn't come apart like a Makarov, but something about all
No,
this
not at
in
all.
the back looks like a Makarov to me.
Yeah, the way they have the grips, you might want. I mean, I looked it up, checked it out, fondled it, tactically fondled it at I mean not NRA at SHOT Show this year and last year, and I think even the year before. I might have to ask Raphael to give me one. They also have Bursa's entry into the 1911 Double Stack. That's one of their auction items, and if you don't know, um, the history of Walk the Talk America and Bursa is this. Walk the Talk America was started by Michael Sedini and he was the owner of Eagle Imports, which is here in Jersey, and they were the importer into America of Bursa back in the day, before Michael sold the company. His family sold the company, and he decided to try to help people and try to help prevent suicides by working within the firearm industry, which he knew. And he reached out to obviously people he's worked with for help doing this. And I think that's really great.
What's your opinion on this guy?
That's from our buddy over there in with Auto Ordnance, or what other
Car.
company? Auto
Car.
Ordnance, Magnum Research, and Car Arms. Yep. And that's kind of cool. Truthfully, the only way I'd freaking buy one is to bid on it because it's kind of expensive. I think they're like $1,100-$1,200 on if you
Oh,
buy
wow.
it from Car. Yeah.
I like it without the paint. Like if it didn't have the paint, I'd like it more because I can definitely get behind the rivets and the like panels that look like an aircraft. I just don't need the paint on there. And I kind of dig how it looks like an old, whatever that patina or that finish or whatever. I'm not a fan of the USA, but I could deal with that. I would just check that over. But I would probably scrape the
You can do
decals.
anything.
But I like this one. I kind of like that. It's
Yeah,
like
and I'm telling.
it's custom without being like gaudy too bad, and it's like a subtle homage or whatever, like a subtle like nod to what it is, but at the same time you look at it and you might just think that it's rusty or something. I like it. Like say minus
it's pretty cool.
I can't deal with the paint.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's a decal. I'm guessing, some rubbing alcohol or something to come off. Hopefully it's not like Cerakote. It might be Cerakote though.
Oh, well, it's Cerakote. It's definitely Cerakote.
Yeah, it's true. Which means there's
But
like
just
a clear coat on it too, so it ain't gonna come off easy. But
I mean, truthfully, hit it with some gray paint. Hit it with a little bit of gray paint to have it look faded yourself.
No, I was gonna say if it looked like tattered, it would go along with it better. It just doesn't look right. So that actually might be the best scenario is to just what's that called? Like not tatter it, but yeah.
Have somebody do a little battle worn on top of it and send it out to our buddies over at Mark. What's the name of the company that I know is in Vegas? Mark III Firearms.
Can you guys have these things is this a pistol in New Jersey or is it no?
So it would have to come in and have work done for it to become either an AOW or a non-NFA firearm.
Okay.
Yeah, so you get it in, you get it to the gun shop, and then you pay to have it become something Jersey legal, which probably right now double the price.
Is that something that you see very often in ranges in New Jersey though? People going through and complying with all that?
Yeah, it's annoying. It's really annoying as someone who's from what used to be a free state to watch people complying with nonsensical rules when they should just vote those people out that voted for it because it doesn't make sense. But yeah, they are complying. What is this? Is that the Gen 6? Yeah.
It's a Gen 6, and I
Gen
couldn't
6.
figure out why they put that thing on the one side, but it makes sense if they put this on the other side. That's probably
Yeah,
Cerakote also, or do you think
Walk
that's laser? I think that's just Cerakote.
Yeah, I think it's Cerakote. Walk the talk.
And then this is a Gen 6 19. So there's definitely a
So
lot
it
of
has all
stippling.
the things that everybody. Yeah, they stippled the snot out of this thing. Look, Glock did everything everyone asked for, and then people going, "Oh, they just did everything everyone asked for." Shut up. It was like there was the pause because I didn't expect, the industry to say anything but stupid stuff, and they did not disappoint. They did not disappoint. Glock, much like Toyota, they evolve. They don't do revolutionary. Nice. So this thing is very, very smooth. I have friends that are running them right now, and it is the Bursa M2X, M2X11, which is hilarious because it's the 2011 or 2011, but in Roman numerals.
Oh, M211. I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah, it's 2011, but they didn't violate any rule. Nothing says you can't call it that.
Whoops, what happened? I clicked on the wrong thing. So this is over there, and then the week after they're doing one for Gun Owners of America, it looks like. I guess if I did go back here.
Listen, it helps. I mean, if you bid and your bid doesn't win, okay, but when you bid on stuff that many people don't know what it is, like the Bursa, I don't know, the Argentinian competition Bursa, a lot of people not going to know what that is in America. And you'll be able to get a smooth firearm that you can probably brag about you got for a great price. Gen 6, people are going to bid on that. The 2011, people definitely going to bid on that. The Strybog. And maybe they won't bid on the M9 clone. Maybe they will, depends. In a 1911 of any kind, they're probably going to bid on. So that USOC thing from T-Sauce, I mean, truthfully, after a certain point, you can just buy one, I think. But they're going through some stuff right now, finding an American distributor because they no longer are working with SDS to bring the guns into the country. So this may be your opportunity to jump on and get one. Is that a Ruger?
Yeah, what do you think of these Rugers RXMs?
I think a Ruger RXM is good. I mean, it's a Glock clone made by Ruger with the chassis. So cool. I mean, Ruger doesn't have a bad reputation. I don't know why they didn't just put a regular pick rail on the bottom, still insisting on that Glock thing. But they did what they did. I have not heard one thing bad about them. I haven't heard one bad thing about them. And this one is set up with suppressor height sights, threaded barrel for a suppressor, but also for anything else you want to put in, including one of the aftermarket comps if you want to do that.
And so it's donated by Ruger. That's kind of neat.
Yeah.
They tell you.
Ruger's actually helping a lot. They I got to reach out to them too. They offered to help me. They're helping KD over at Train and Learn with the kids. They actually donated guns to one of the kids at last year's NRA. That from what's the name of the organization that Devin runs? Well, him and Cakes the King. Cakes the King's one of the kids' birthday was during the NRA, and Ruger gave him a 1022, which was really cool. So, Tony, you're only saying people that did things for yes, companies that did things that they don't have to do are freaking legend. Sorry, but there are a whole lot of people in the firearms community that benefit off the work of Second Amendment organizations, but will not do a damn thing for them except benefit from it. And when a company like Ruger helps out Walk the Talk America, they don't have to. Versa doesn't have to. They no longer have that relationship, business relationship. But they're still friends. I mean, they don't have that business relationship. They could have said no. So when it comes to this, even if you did pay attention to the companies that are involved, and when it comes time to buy your firearm, just keep that in mind that those are the companies that reached out and tried to help the community grow and help those out, save themselves, Walk Talk America. They didn't have to do any of that. Well, they're only doing it because, you might buy their gun. Okay. That's how marketing works.
I was watching a thing. Somebody was, one of the people I don't have any respect for, I guess, is going broke or whatever. And they did a YouTube video being like, oh, give me money. And there was another video that was bitching about it, like ragging on the first channel for asking for money and giving them shit because they're millionaires and stuff. And I was wondering why it got in my feed, like why that showed up, because I don't usually watch that kind of stuff. And I guess that must be happening constantly, but a long, long time ago, I quit trying to keep up with that kind of drama. And back in the day when there was only a number of channels to watch with guns, you know what I mean? So the drama was a choice of like, the drama's there, either watch it or not. But nowadays there's so many channels just in the gun space that I'm sure this drama is happening constantly. And now it's a matter of like, do you even want to watch the drama? And then which dramas do you want to watch? So anyway, since I don't usually participate in that, it was interesting that this showed up. And for whatever reason, I started watching it mainly just to see how they could talk about this for 2 hours. Is this seriously all they talked about for 2 hours? So it's like a live show for 2 hours, ragging on like a video that some millionaire posted about like how they're basically like YouTube's out to get me and I can't do what I normally like to do kind of thing. And, so please help.
Was that a video put out this week?
To be honest, I don't remember if I think it might have been recent because I didn't look real hard at, I was just mostly like, is this 2 hours worth of just complaining about another channel? Because that bickering, like I say, it used to be a thing when, when we all started this shit in like 9 or something, like 09, when the gun channels started happening, it was like 12. So if people were going to bicker, you were bickering about the 12 channels or whatever. And then there was like, 30, and then there was 100, and then there was 700, and now there's 7,000. So it's just not the same as it was. So now you choose to decide if you're going to watch people bicker, I guess. And I could totally see it if like you're in a realm, I don't know, like let's say competitive shooters or something. Like I know there's some shit out there where I don't even know. I was kind of paying attention, but I just don't have the brain capacity for it. But like, didn't IDPA get in trouble for not doing something right or something? So there was like a lot of like live chats about or with competitive shooters talking to each other about whether IDPA should just fail, like let it go already and we'll make a new organization, or let it go, we have too many organizations, like all the different, well, there was many different versions that I'd never heard about. I barely glanced at that and I'm like, wow, like this is just a huge community, even though, you can only take so much in. Everybody's only got so much time. You can scratch the surface on like, let's say cowboy shooting, but do you really get into cowboy shooting and find out if like, authentic costumes is really legit versus, outfits made in China or something? Like that's a controversy, I'm sure, in like cowboy action shooting. The rest of us don't even hardly know about it, cowboy action shooting, let alone all the different drama that's going on over there, right? They're not cowboy action shooters aren't the first ones to go on YouTube and bitch about it, but people that are selling you these kind of things. And I don't know how I started thinking about this, except that when you were kind of talking about the companies and stuff, and I was looking at who's donating these guns. Some of these guns, like Ruger, donated that gun. How big a company is Ruger? And there's like what? Well, maybe is this a Ruger too? No, this isn't even a Ruger. So there's one Ruger on this list, and I'm not saying shit other than Ruger's a massive company, and Walk the Talk America is doing stuff, and this is an auction with 50 guns, and Ruger puts one in. Like, where'd this one come from? Generally donated by Car Arms. So Car Arms, giant company, they donated. There's probably more than one car in here for some reason. Here's another Ruger.
Well,
so maybe shut up.
Yeah, you got car, you got auto.
Nope, this one's coming from Davis. This one's coming from Davis. So that's a Ruger, but it's not coming from Ruger. All I'm saying is, like, we could sit here and go, Ruger is a big company and they only donated one gun. You know what I mean? Or we could just be like, here's the thing that's happening for Walk the Talk America. Or we could be like most people and go, you should buy this gun because of the fucking grip angle. Or, what's bad about this gun is 45 ACP. You should buy this gun because it's 9mm. 9mm is so good. And because it's got a thing on top, you can put an optic that I get like 50% if I sell you the optic. I get 50% of that sale. So let's talk about optics on guns. Like, this gun's no good. For one, this guy doesn't give me a cut if we sell that gun. And even if you did, it's like a $300 gun. This is a $3,000 gun and I get like a 50% cut of it. And if you buy an optic cut on it, I start making 40% of those optic sales. So, that's the kind of stuff I was thinking about. And when, so that's a factor of capitalism or something. Like, there's different business models and stuff. So like, you could be like, hey, here's this gun and I'm trying to sell it to you, or I think it's so good because of its grip angle or its stippling or something, but you should buy it from this place because it's got the thing on it, and I get a 50% cut if you buy it from this place or whatever. And then there's somebody else who's going to spend 2 hours bitching about the idea that let's say the first channel, because I don't really do either one of these, but let's say the first channel says, buy this gun, buy it from this place because it's so good or whatever, and I'm getting a 40% cut of it. Or they probably aren't going to say that, but that's why they're saying it, because they're going to get a 40% cut if you buy that gun there. So then there's another channel that comes along and spends 2 hours bitching about that, like, what do you call that mechanism or that situation? I don't know. Like, can we spend 2 hours wondering how come Walk the Talk America doesn't get more funding or something? Like, spend 2 hours talking about, I don't know, just something that has more direct effect on stuff. So as much as I don't like the people that just exploit us, I think I would rather, and I don't know, I'm just bloviating here, but I think I would rather, acknowledge that that's a frustrating part of our infrastructure or our like community or culture or something, that people are going to exploit us for money. I'm more worried about the people that exploit us for our time and stuff, like the people that are just selling stuff. I understand it's a waste of time. I'm no fan of them. I just think that there's, I don't know, after watching somebody sit around and bitch and then understanding that it's just not like, I hang out with mostly people that sit around by ourselves and bitch. This was somebody with a massive audience sit around and bitching about somebody else with an even massiver audience. And that's so ironic. I think maybe that's why I'm bitching about this. And I'm spending time here as a third channel bitching about the concept, right? But the fact that there's enough people that are going to be so worried about this little, like, oh, I don't like the way they're running their channel. Like, are you serious? Like, name, I don't know, like 6 things that are relevant. And if you can do that without thinking hard, then go ahead and waste a bunch of time. But it seems like wasting 2 hours worrying about how somebody's doing their shit isn't the best use of time when you're complaining that they're doing their shit in some way that isn't the best use of time. So it's kind of like the pot calling the kettle black in a way, although it's not, you're bitching about that they're making money, but you could just ignore them, I guess, is what I'm saying. That's I tend to ignore them because, one, there's too many of them, and you just help them by pointing at like, hey, this guy's exploiting. Look, go check out his channel. Like, you're just helping them to do that. But I also think, what's the gain? Like, telling gun owners to quit buying guns? Like, that's dumb. Like, we like buying guns. It's just a thing. And it's a waste of time. But that's like telling a teenager. I was having a conversation with a friend, like telling a teenager not to buy stuff. Like, try to tell you when you were a teenager not to buy stuff. And let's say somebody successfully did talk you out of buying shit, you'd be lame. You know what I mean? Like, whatever you bought, either you learned like that's awesome or like that's a waste of time. But then over time, you kept doing that, and eventually you learned what was cool and what wasn't. If somebody could just blink that away, you'd be lame. You'd be boring, and you wouldn't know what is good. You'd be an adult that doesn't know what's good or how to get ripped off. You know what I mean? How not to get ripped off, I guess. So I guess I don't want to take that away from people. Like, if you want to waste your time buying a bunch of dumb guns, I'll give you the advice. Like, if I could go back in time, I would tell myself not to buy a bunch of dumb guns, just because I'd rather have bought fewer nice guns, especially now, knowing that a nice gun that I would have bought in the 80s would have like paid for a car now. But but just in general, like, you're allowed to treat yourself. You don't have to just buy what you can afford. You can wait 3 weeks and buy what you want, and then make an informed purchase the next time. Because you talk to some people who are like, I got a bunch of HKs. is it because you've tried a bunch of guns and you like HKs, or it's because you got a bunch of money and you went to the store and you know that everybody envies HK, so that's what you bought? But you might have liked the trigger on something else. You just don't know because you only ever bought HK. So anyway, it kind of, I don't know what I'm even saying here. We're just bloviating, I guess, or I'm just bloviating. Is that the right word? I'm just blabbing.
Yeah, Bobby. Nah, no. Hey, what I posted on X is true. Hey, start in listening because of the advocacy and stick around because of the unscheduled rants. Um,
And the unfiltered. Like we're not getting paid for these
oh,
rants, and nobody's like, we don't care. There's no money to take away on the rants. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
oh, none whatsoever. Speaking of money taken away, I mean, well, these podcasts shut down. We posted our podcast and it was pulled almost immediately. Tuesday's show, we posted it Wednesday and they pulled it because of something that happened in the first 2 minutes.
The gear show.
And we have, yeah, they we're like, oh, we got an interview everyone on the show. What the heck? I don't know. Have no clue.
I think Barbecue had that
YouTube.
happen the other, like maybe a month ago. He was doing something. He never told me what the words were he said, but he said something, and then his live show got canceled like 7 minutes into the show. So there's robots that listen to what we're saying. I mean, that
Yeah,
I know they've done that, but
did we say a curse word within the first couple of minutes? Because again, 2 minutes. Not when I say a few minutes, like 15. No, 2 minutes. I don't know what the hairy heck happened. But whatever, man. Look, we put our show out. We have it. Most people don't watch it anyway. People listen to it. We have a large audience that actually listens to the podcast, which is great. It was just entertaining, or maybe even just frustrating, to find out that the show didn't last 5 minutes. Oh, excuse me.
so it's still recorded. You still did the whole show, and then it went out to the podcast as a complete package. It just stopped on YouTube, like streaming. No, I don't hear him at all. So I'm asking everybody out there: is it me or Tony? Like, which one of us is dropping out? Could be me. I could be talking to the internet.
This is really it's robot, and I didn't know what you were saying, but yeah, it comes back around and fades out. So I got off my Wi-Fi because I thought that's what was happening. So I'm just using regular 5G.
Okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna try resetting my computer. I'm gonna restart my computer, I guess I should say. So in case it's me, I'll be back.
All right, cool. So what's going on with us at Diversity Shoot? If I'm still on there, if I'm the problem, I apologize, guys. I'm trying to figure it out. Diversity Shoot. Hey, what's going on, Pack Rat Satic? Wow, that hurt. Diversity Shoots. We got them coming up. We have 2 in April. One's going to be at Gun for Hire Range in Woodland Park. The other is going to be at We Shoot in Lakewood, New Jersey. I'll be putting those tickets up, if not today, later today. Oh, I'm the robot? Oh, okay. So later today, I'll have both of those posted. I'll be sharing videos. If you follow We Shoot on YouTube, you'll see a lot of the videos I've been making in their studio. I just did one on Gideon Optics Mediator XL red dot. Dude, that thing is a beast. I have it mounted on top of my High Point and bullpup chassis because I think that's sturdy of a monster enough of a gun that it fits, right. A High Point 9mm carbine is an inexpensive a High Point carbine is an inexpensive PCC, pistol caliber carbine. It is, but it freaking works. And I think the price is right on that to go with that red dot optic. It's fast, it's big, it has a kill flash on it. It actually has an armored chassis over the optic itself. I say yes, go for it. Downside of the optic, it is heavy. It is heavy and it is wide. but I think it's really great for what it is. Will it put up with being beaten to a wall or something or used incorrectly like a hammer? I hope not. I mean, that's one of the dumber things I see on these, hey, we're going to test this equipment out by tying it to the bumper of my F-250 and dragging it around the range. Okay, next week we should tie you to the bumper of your F-250 and drag you around the range, because I don't know how your gun is going to have that happen to it without you being attached. I mean, people do dumb stuff, and
Well, I can get
usually,
that one to the idea. Sorry, I'm jumping back in, but I could, when you're talking about
yeah.
like the massive abuse test, or like I remember with a friend of mine a long time ago tied a Glock to a string and dragged it behind his car out here in the desert, and it just bounced all
Hmm.
around or whatever. I hear what you're saying. Like that ain't gonna happen to a normal gun, but it would happen if like you're in a truck or something, you drop it and it falls out the door and it like hits the ground and shit.
So,
And that's where if
so
like
my whole
you picked it up, would it still work or would it like immediately smash type of thing?
well, my whole thing with that is, if that was any representation of anything, the military would use it in its testing, and it doesn't. They don't
No,
have
it's
a
I would call
drag
that
behind
like
the
an unrealistic. I would call that like
uh,
beyond a stress test to like a extremes type of
entertainment.
test.
It's
Well, no, I
entertainment.
mean, I think it's still informational because there are devices like I'm just trying to think like some assemblies are made where like they have a bunch of tabs. So if you smashed it into the ground, it would all the tabs would let go, and then it is what it is. But other things are glued together, so they might break, right? So now the thing hits the ground and breaks, and while the third thing might be cast in a three-dimensional shape and snap or crack or maybe not anything. And that's I think where you just get that reference. And it's not like, oh, this gun is better because this is important. It's just informational. Like, oh, okay, this one's made different. I would call it entertainment, yes, but I would say there's like infotainment there too. Like it could be used for somebody who, again, if like, well, I'm going to be taking this out on a horse, and realistically, I've dropped like 12 guns, so I want to make sure if I buy this one, it's not going to break the first time I drop it. Um, and what factor is that? Like the third or fourth factor on your decision making process. So I'm not saying it's super relevant, but I can at least understand it. But I'm also not trying to validate it. You know what I mean? I'm not saying like don't buy this gun because of it doesn't do this massive abuse test or whatever. And I guess I have to concede that the same thing with like dumping it in the mud and shit. Nobody, I mean, I guess you could get covered in the mud, but you're not going to need to come out fighting very rare, very often. Like, oh, I fell in a river and got covered in silt, me and all my gear. And as soon as I get out of the river, I got to get into a gunfight. Like, holy shit. Hopefully you got an axe at that point.
Yeah, I look at that as okay. I'll grant you maybe infotainment,
Yeah.
but yeah, when they talk about testing firearms, the military has protocol that they test firearms with, and dragging shit behind a truck ain't it, but
No,
spraying
theirs
it
will be
with
stuff like freezing it for 48 hours or 48 days or
hmm
something and seeing if it'll come back, or like the other way, like heating it up or something. That's more like military town and shit. Like, what if some idiot
well
like leaves it outside in the sun? Is it going to completely roast these things or what?
Well, the military does it because when it comes to extreme conditions, you're deployed in extreme conditions. Attached to that gun is you, and it's just sitting in a holster while you're doing your thing, working on a vehicle, climbing in and out of a tank. So yeah, it's banging that in frozen ass conditions, and that makes sense.
Well, I'm thinking
Sea
of like
spray,
when there's
water
a
spray.
pallet of them though, like being deployed, and a pallet of them
Oh,
sits in a Quonset hut in Alaska for 12 months. That's what the Army's
mm-hmm.
also worried about. Like they got to buy stuff that can deal with that, or at least they're
Yep.
factoring that kind of shit into it, or at least they're packaging it in that way. And all of that, how does that apply to us? Like maybe it applies if you live in Alaska and you're prepping, but the rest of the time it's extra icing on the
Well,
cake. It's
for
cool and stuff, but it really doesn't matter if your gun
mhm.
can be packaged that way, for example.
So for me, when I because people ask, I'll go ahead and use my supervisor as an example. He told me he wanted, a 1911 45. So knowing him, knowing his personality, knowing the things he does own, I recommended a Colt 1911. And he wanted, one that eventually has an optic on it because he wanted to learn it. So I made sure I got him the latest Colt 1911 and had the optic cut. Well, he was like, "Hey, I want another gun. I got two permits. What should my more modern gun be?" Immediately, again, if I suggested a Colt for him, I immediately suggested a Glock, and he said that he'd like the bigger one. So instead of the Glock 19, that's just the Glock 17 Gen 6. And he got that. And it's like, well, why? Because I know for a guy, they'll never do anything to the gun. You know what I mean? He's not going to have it sent out to be stippled. He's not going to have it Cerakoted. He's not going to drop a trigger in it. He's not going to do anything. But he needs that gun to run every time. When it comes to out the door, more than likely, I know the Glock will be able to run and work out the door regardless of what happens. And he won't have any problems. I can't say that about Smith & Wesson anymore. I can't. And again, when it came to him and his, name brand means something to him, and people recognizing what he owns, if he says it means something to him. Glock was pretty much a shoe-in. But knowing that Glock went through military trials in multiple countries and passed, knowing Glock is on the hips of police around the world and militaries, I'm like, yeah, that'll do. Why? Because I know it's been through something that had protocols and not like some of the stuff that's less expensive that hasn't. So to me, yeah, that military testing also means something when I'm recommending it to someone that won't have any, not going to try to figure out how to fix a firearm, not going to want to send it into a manufacturer, that kind of thing. Am I still here? Or did I drop off?
No, I'm sorry. I'm typing on text over here.
Oh, okay.
Copy link. That's what I was looking for.
So,
I guess what I was
so
saying though is that as much as I am, what I started the rant I think on was that as much as I dislike the people that exploit us and bitch about, I mean, I constantly bitch about grip angles and red dot shit. Like that stuff is annoying, but it's also the engine that runs the whole thing. And is I'm only annoyed by it because I know that it's a slippery slope into having a gun safe full of dumb guns that I own and everybody I know owns. And that's why if I could offer that advice to the next generation or whatever, is like save. And I think a lot of them do this. Like not all of them are just buying every gun that comes along. Some of them do. And that's probably the ones I talk to. So maybe that's why I get like maybe I'm getting a lopsided example of like what the new gun owners are doing. Because I think a lot of them are just buying one or two guns and they're buying nicer ones or whatever. But I guess that's my thing, is like just I don't know, like any other collection, like you can maybe tools even. At least I think that's another thing that I've would have the same advice. Like I bought so many tools at Harbor Freight that were junk that I should have just bought decent tools and I wouldn't have had to buy 3 or something. But then you can't say never buy stuff at Harbor Freight, because I've had some stuff that I've bought, maybe not from Harbor Freight, but like from a flea market or something that was, Harbor Freight-ish, like inexpensive. But man, it just has been running forever, because some of that stuff that's simple, simple was better. Sometimes, often simple is better actually. So it's kind of like an AK. You can't say never buy a cheap gun because all cheap guns are junk. No, that's not true. There's high points, there's AKs, there's all kinds of good cheap guns. They're not all cheap good. You can't say it uniform about anything.
So I fell down a rabbit hole of trucking lately. And, over the road, hot shot trucking, that kind of thing, from a conversation I had. Anyway, who cares how I fell down a rabbit hole, but I did. And one of the channels, it's guys, regular guys that built or put together their rig, mechanics that put together their on the road rigs. So it's their trucks that they put together. What truck did they pick? How do they have their tools set up? What tools do they carry? And a lot of them have Harbor Freight stuff.
We're talking to help other people, or like what I'm going to have so that I never get stuck type of
thing? They go out to remote camps. These guys were Canadian that I saw. Go out to trucking camps and wood camps and mines and do work. So they get called out there to fix trucks that make money. You know what I mean?
Okay, I got you. So they're support vehicles for people that need them.
Yep, that's what their job is. So these guys, one, the bills are pretty freaking cool, right? You're looking at what vehicle they chose to build out and what they based it on. But also one of the cooler things is, I have Snap-ons. We got a Snap-on guy. I got this from Snap-on. I got this from Snap-on. But when I needed something for this and I had to like take it and melt heat this tool up and melt it so I have it at a certain angle. Yeah, I went to Harbor Freight and I got that because it's less expensive than doing the same thing to a snap-on. When I needed something that I know I could either break or weld on or create a tool using, yeah, I got that. Some of the guys actually use snap-ons for that too, but a large number of them use things like Harbor Freight for their manual tools because they work and you can abuse them, especially if you have to just do weird things with them. I think one of the funniest things, the guy had like a 5 pound, was it 5 pound? 3 to 5 pound sledgehammer, and it had a 3 inch freaking, a 3 inch handle. He was like, because if I have to knock something out from the back inside of something, I can't have the whole handle. It won't work. But when I cut the handle down to 3 inches with this heavy head, I can reach in and just bang from the other side. I was like, that's real mechanics talking. That's real dudes that do things for a real reason. And some of the stuff is, yes, you can buy inexpensive tools to modify them instead of doing it with expensive ones. Everything has its place. And I just like the fact that I was able to find someone, a bunch of someone's validating what I've thought and I've done. Like, you don't have to buy the cheapest thing ever every time, but sometimes those inexpensive things have their place and can really work for you.
And it's also when you're talking something like that, they probably have a vehicle they go back and forth to work in, and then they might have a spouse that has a vehicle or a kid, or even other people they know that have vehicles. So if they're trying to outfit multiple vehicles, it gets expensive real quick to have the top of the line tools as emergency tools in everybody's vehicle, unless you're wealthy as hell, right?
Yeah, that's another thing if you're going to do stuff like that. But they were only talking about their one truck. It was really, I like the way it's done. I just can't find it now. I thought I followed it. I can't find the
That
name of
sounds
the channel
interesting.
where I give it to you. Yeah, to me,
Now
it's
that
just
I got the
interesting watching
4x4,
professionals.
about my experience out here is that I've known people with 4x4s forever, but I had a pretty capable 2-wheel drive Chevy truck that got, close to everywhere, a 4x4. But then we also never tested it hard. Like I never tried to keep up with them doing real hard 4x4 stuff out here.
Mhm.
But there are some, because you can imagine when you got mountains and things, there's some interesting places that only 4x4s can get to, and they just get better views and more interesting experiences sometimes. So as I'm thinking about that, I've been I should probably start watching channels like you're talking about, where people are talking about what tools they take and how they set up their gear.
Yeah, all right, found it. Let me see. You'll build a global community of collaborative industry leaders. Yeah, yeah. It's some company, TEKAMO HD. That's their channel.
All right, what is it again?
TEKAMO space HD. Oh, I guess there's no space if you just type it in on YouTube. I think I had like 4 of their videos in a row, and I watched these things on fast forward. So it's not even them. Oh, let me go ahead and subscribe. It's not even them advertising something. It's them kicking off the conversation. They were like, look, if you got your own rig and you're building your thing out, and if you built it out, you want us to come check it out, we'll come see you and we'll do a video. So
spell it again. I got
they
it.
have okay, here we go. TEKAMOHD.
Okay, I missed the A, I think. Okay, black and yellow.
Yep, black and yellow.
Got him.
Yeah, so it's not like they beat you up with a bunch of advertisements. I think they have one, but I watched it, on double speed. And it's the ones labeled Truck Tour that I was looking at. I haven't even looked at their homepage until I just told you about it. And I just followed them because of the Truck Tour thing. I don't even know how many they have. But that's what I'm looking at. So, if they, I don't know, punch women in the face as their other videos, I didn't know. I'm totally
They're advocating
unaware.
stepping on frogs at the end of every video or some shit. And it's like, whoa, I didn't know about that. I'm looking at the tools. I'm looking at
Yeah, I'm just looking at the tools, dude.
Well, I've seen some Snap-on stuff on the Instagram where they're Snap-on truck people, doing their videos. You usually talking
Hmm.
about some history of some tool for a long time, and then when it got into there must have been some like the era of Harbor Freight tools are just as good as Snap-on, and this one's better. So then it would be a whole bunch of like, let's use this little like nylon torque thing, or this like thing that we have that measures slip, and let's tell if this is accurate or not. But aside from that, which was like, I'm going to call it like this, it was like a while that they did those videos. Most of the time, they're just people talking about interesting tool shit. They're in a Snap-on truck, so it's
Hmm.
obviously they're a Snap-on guys or girl. The one of them's a girl, and so there's that theme or whatever. But it's not like down your throat like every single video is like, then you got to buy Snap-on. But I think that's kind of an interesting way to use the socials. Just then if someone did need Snap-on, they're going to immediately know who to. I'm going to go on Instagram and talk to that person.
Yeah, why not? Use your thing, man. But for me, I thought it was just interesting as someone who works with tools as a professional that has an opinion based on 3 decades of actually more than 3 decades of doing one job. It's like, okay, cool. Let me at least listen to what he has to say. Because, as a locksmith, people love telling me about lock picking lawyer. And I'm like, cool, dude, if you're into it, lock picking, I'm sure it can be a fun thing. Um, but talking to a locksmith about lock picking is like talking to a cop about his sidearm. If he's even a gun person, he can get into it. But if he's not, it's just a thing
Or
that
like
he
talk to a
carries.
cop about his cop car or his radio probably is even worse, right? Like, how many cop
Yeah,
people are actually radio nerds? Most cops are like, yeah, I go to channel 13, and if it flips, I have to call my buddy to tell me how to flip it back to channel 13.
yeah, that. So it's totally gettable, because I watch Lock Picking Lawyer and just to see what he has to say about certain locks, and I'm laughing because yeah, he does a great job because it's his hobby, so he does it for hours. But locksmithing is more than picking a lock. It's significantly more than picking a lock. So I concentrate on lock picking enough to be good with lock picks and attack a problem with a lock pick, to open this thing. But if it's a $3 lock and I can't get it after a couple minutes, I'll cut the freaking bolt. Be done with it. The
Well, that's the
customer can
thing.
replace.
I haven't done like locksmithing, but from my experience hanging out with locksmiths and stuff, it's like uh locks are basically 99% all the same, and the lock picking is the same on those 99%. And then that guy on
Hmm.
the lock picking lawyer show looks at all the extreme examples, and the
Hmm.
ones that like some jeweler locksmith in Switzerland or something probably has to deal with. But most people aren't buying a $75 padlock that uses cryptomagnetic zigzag channels or something, right?
Yeah.
And then they lose the key and then pay you to come over and pick it. Like you say, most people that do that are like, dang, I'm out the money for this lock because I bought the most impossible lock to pick. So snap, and they buy another one because they could afford to buy the first one, right? But I think that
Yep.
at least in my experience, 99% of lock picks or locks that I've ever needed to open was when I was working in the restaurant, which was essentially the same lock, just in every door
Hmm.
of every 17 restaurants all had the same thing. So picking it was kind of like, I don't know, opening a gate that you've had to open a million times, right? Like
Yeah. You'll get
you
it.
kind of used to it, and it's not like you're James Bond having to encounter a new laser encrypted electric lock every 5 minutes. Anyway, people I think that you're, as a locksmith, you're encountering new locks like, oh, the European backwards key. Oh, I have to get my
Yeah.
manual out because this is the intergalactic upside down tumblers.
So, because we just had, we have stuff happen all the time. Right now, we have because understand, in a prison environment, cuffs are used every day, all day. When you move an inmate from one day to point B, from the cell, you're escorting them where they go because they don't. Certain inmates aren't allowed to just walk from point A to point B, so they cuffed. and cuff to come out of the cell. You walk into the shower. They get in the shower. They stick their hand through the window. You uncuff them. You let them take a shower. Shower's over. They call you over. You come over. You cuff them up. You bring them back to the cell. Oh, every now and again, those cuffs fail. The key breaks, and now the key's broken off in the cuff. Well, you're not picking around the key. So, locksmith and lawyer, totally useless in that situation. The skills you learn from lockpick and lawyer, totally useless from that situation. Number of times I had to pick cuffs off, 0. Number of times I had to cut cuffs off, twice to 3 times a year over the last nearly 2 decades.
So in other words, they're just using handcuffs so much that the cuff or the key actually wears out. I guess I never thought about it. Jail that would happen.
Yes, because the cops, especially on the units where you're doing the escorts and you're continually escorting, you have a key that you take everywhere. You have the cuff key, and some keys work smoothly. Some cuffs until it breaks, because most likely, I remember this joke. In a third world country that has bungee jumping, they replace the cuff key every time it breaks. So it's like, hey, how can you replace the bungee every time it breaks? So when the key breaks, it usually breaks inside the lock. I don't have to go cut these cuffs off of a human being. And
do you use like a special cutter, like how how like EMT shears have that little tab on?
No, I use a grinder.
Oh, okay. Well, like if they're
grinder.
taking off not that you're saying a grinder, like if they're taking off like a I'm trying to think of, the cast, like a plaster cast.
Oh,
no, like EMT shears, how they have like a little flap. There's nothing like human version of grinder. It's just a grinder.
So again, I've been doing this for a really long time. I've gotten good enough, and that I use a cutting wheel on a regular grinder that you use to freaking tear paint off or do body work or whatever. I use that with a cutting wheel. People are like, why? Shouldn't you use something else? Now, I have a new partner, and he got queasy at even the thought of doing that and ordered a Dremel with a smaller wheel, and he's practicing cutting. And I was like, okay, I can use the grinder, and I can cut the cuffs off in between 2 and 5 seconds. So by the time it gets hot, because it's going to get hot because you're cutting metal with a thing that's just grinding a hole through it. It's not literally cutting it, it's grinding it. Even if it was cutting it, that's going to get hot too. So the quicker you cut it, the quicker you get it off and the less hot it gets. So I've practiced enough and I'm prep enough that I'm able to do it. But also, it's who you're dealing with. You're dealing with inmates. Some of them are violent. Some of them are crazy. But I've never met one crazy enough to mess around when I have a 4-inch cutting wheel about half an inch away from their wrist, and it's shooting sparks out 4 feet above their head.
Plus, you're only doing it for moments, it sounds like. So it's not like they have a lot of time to be like, oh, I'm ready for this, and here's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. Damn.
So it's breaking up a little bit, but I got most of what you're saying. I'm thinking it's on your end, but I don't know, because Packrath said that it was on your end. But do you put like a piece of leather or something against their, them?
Obviously, my thing went down again. So, are you asking what I put between them and the cutting wheel?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, you put like a piece of leather or something on there?
No, I mean, I get a piece of metal. I get a flat steel piece of metal. I cover them up. I mean, I make sure no one's hurt, but also understand you're dealing with some people that may be violent criminals and not all the way there. So to me, also the intimidation factor of I'm not gonna mess up because this dude can mess me like
yeah.
I mean, in their mind, they're thinking I can cut their whole entire arm off. And they might be crazy, but self-preservation shows up in a crazy person.
Yeah, that's cool. Plus, imagine once it's cut, it just the handcuff falls apart. It's not like it's stuck to them and you have to then go in there and fuck with it. It's like you're breaking the cuff off. So But I'll tell you what, they're definitely strong enough that you know that they're on. I've only had to have them on a couple of times, but I don't know. But I've seen people that also I've seen cuffs that were broken by people. I think they have to be bigger than me. But you just get to a big enough person, and a handcuff is not as effective as it is with a regular sized person. And like, you know what I mean? I don't think well, you know them more than anybody, I guess. They don't need to necessarily just be strong. If you're just a huge person, handcuffs are, you can break them off, right?
Well, we double lock the handcuffs. I don't know of anybody breaking them, but it doesn't mean I know everything, and I don't know every story. So, I mean, it could have happened. I don't know.
I've just seen a
I just
bunch of
don't know.
twisted ones. Like, Ed Calderon, he always posts stuff like that. That's probably where I've seen a lot of, but others, every once in a while you see them. But I just get the impression, because most handcuffs are like, what is it, metal that's sandwiched metal or whatever. They're not all like fancy milled ones. They're just flat metal riveted together. And those are the ones that I've seen where I'm assuming just a huge dude who twists his wrists, like, because you're huge and you got giant arms and you got muscle behind it, like the handcuffs just can't handle it. So they just you can see how they like break the rivets of the handcuffs themselves and just fall apart. So it's not like they break the lock as much as just the structure of the handcuffs themselves. And I've seen enough
Yeah,
of
if
them.
you're doing,
It's not like, I mean, somebody with huge arms could probably do it too, but I'm thinking this is just big dudes that are just, where the handcuffs probably barely fit on their wrists and all they got to do is like twist funny and the handcuffs are doomed.
yeah, I mean, I'll preface this by saying I don't know anything about anyone doing that. And I only know the handcuffs that they use on my job. You know what I mean? So there may be inexpensive handcuffs or different styles, but the way they escort is, the cuffs are on you, but you're being escorted with one person on each arm. So you're not doing all this unobserved twisting
Yeah, exactly.
and silliness.
No, I'm also talking
You know,
about like store handcuffs, not nice ones, Peerless or whatever.
oh, okay. Yeah, I have no clue. But yeah, it's one fun part of my job because it's different and you're helping out the inmate. And people, why you want to do? Look, these people are human beings, bro. After one part, they calm the hell down. I mean, everybody isn't the serial killer, stabby person. Um, and understand, I'm walking amongst these people at any given time. Someone could say, "Hey, we're gonna stab a freaking civilian to make a point." And if I have a good enough relationship with enough people, they may say, "Don't stab him." Okay. I don't have to bring them anything. I don't break any rules, and I'm not trying to be their best friend. But I'll treat a man like a man. I'll speak to you. I'll say hello. But I'm not going to treat you like you're less than me, even if you're an inmate. Not my job. Except Jesse Commendacross, who's a piece of shit. And if you wonder who he is, he's the guy, the reason they have naked slaw. And if you have nothing else better to do, look up that horrible human being. He's a piece of garbage. I won't do anything to him, but I won't be civil to him either. I will just look at him and walk off.
Is it still like the olden days where like it used to, the perception was in the old days where if somebody does something super heinous and they go to jail, then the people there are going to get rid of them?
No.
Okay.
I mean, it can happen if you get on enough of their nerves or you just got the right person. Oh, it can happen to you. I'm not saying it's not a threat, but it's not
It's not
like
like a meat
every
grinder where every bad person gets taken care of.
yeah. Yeah, no, it's not like that. But yeah, you can get on the wrong person radar and they could just not care. So it's no free ride. But yeah, it's not automatic because we have things like I mean, really the officers are responsible for your safety. And if your unit turns into a gladiator pit, you'll probably go to jail. So no, they can't allow that to happen. People live there. The inmates, that's their home. And I look at it like this. Everybody who listens to this podcast could have gone to jail at one point or another for things they did and got away with, or because we've all done stuff that we didn't get caught for. And even if you're that rebel without a cause, no regrets kind of person that kind of do everything you want, after a few years, you'll calm down locked up in solitary confinement or only having those four walls and a roof over your head. Eventually, your personality will change and you just want to go along to get along and finish your time and actually breathe free air one day. You don't want to be in a situation where you are always worried about a fight breaking out or stabbing happen. So they want routine too, for the most part, unless they're insane.
Yeah, like calm is the tendency, or like peace is the tendency. It's not chaos constantly.
Yeah, it's not chaos constantly, it's not doom and gloom constantly, but it can become that at the drop of a hat as far as most of us are concerned, because I'm not in that environment 24/7 and know the undercurrents and know the
Nothing to
mood of the
lose.
unit. But some of those guys have absolutely nothing to lose and just want to be left alone. And if you come along messing up their calm and screwing up their routine, hey man, we're supposed to have, fried chicken Saturdays or something, and you're here screwing this up. Yeah, you might not make it to you might not make it to Sunday.
And not because they give a shit about you, but because they want that whatever thing that you messed up. Yeah.
Yeah, they want that thing you messed up and you pissed them off because you stopped them from getting it. No one's making up excuses. Nobody's your buddy. Nobody wants to be your friend. Nobody hear your upcoming rap song. None of that bull crap.
I'm going to go back to an actual question or a comment, I guess, that came in from Plain Nut. Back when we were looking at the auctions from Pot of Gold, they're doing the auction this Tuesday for Walk to Talk America, the organization that brings firearms owners, the community, the firearms community, I guess you could say, and the industry together with the medical community by making medical people aware of the situation for gun owners, and then letting gun owners experience ways to talk about mental health the same way that we would talk about like a broken arm or getting poked in the eye. We get poked in the eye with brass or something, and it's going to take me 3 weeks before I get my eye back, and I'm going to have to shoot with my my left eye. And we don't talk about that as if it's a permanent issue, or as if it were somehow lesser or anything because of that physical issue. But for some reason, if we're talking about the brain, we're talking about mental stuff, the stigma or the unfamiliarity or whatever the words are, that situation when we're talking about mental stuff, just not just with guns, but especially with guns, but in lots of sectors, we don't talk about mental health with cars, for example, or we don't talk about mental health with other hobbies, right? But with firearms especially, it's an issue because one, it's an issue, but two, most of the deaths with firearms are from suicide. 2 out of 3 deaths with a firearm are suicide. All the deaths with firearms are used against us, even though it's something like 40,000 a year, which is dwarfed by tobacco or alcohol or any of the other things that kill people. Guns, are used when they say guns are a violent thing. They use suicides they use it as a crutch. They depend on that number of suicides in order to make guns, to demonize guns and gun owners. So as gun owners, even if you don't think suicide is a big issue, you have to strategically or tactically understand that suicide is a pawn in this whole thing. And when we take a look and scrutinize the who is committing suicide, are we allowed to even say that? I don't even know if we're allowed to say that because of the way this stuff is. I think I might get the show might get shut down from saying that. But however you're supposed to say that, when you look at those people, those are people who are military, law enforcement, emergency responders. Why? Because they do the jobs that no one wants to even think about every single fucking day. But that being said, the people that are affected most by the action of that are being used against us, and they're us. So we have the most ability to do something about that and to interact with that and to be part of that. Walk the Talk America is what, about 5 or 6 years old at this point. I think came around in 2000. I can't remember exactly what date, but you just said it earlier in the show that Mike, kind of had a situation and decided I'm gonna do something about this and did something. And then that something became an organization that's now, like I say, about 6 years old. They've got a 1 foot in the medical realm by educating medical people that, hey, you worry about someone who I'm trying to think of something else that medical people worry about. Maybe dog owners or something. Like you worry about, the when you're talking to a pet owner, you want to make sure that you are delicate when you're talking to somebody who's dealing with cancer. You understand your patients who have uh, just 1 or 2 parents, or one, not 2 parents, or something like that. Like the medical community is aware that patients differ and that there's ways that they need to understand how to deal with their patients, except for firearms. And when it gets to firearms, they have a lot of assumptions about firearms owners with very little research and very little actual evidence. But because of the what doctors seem to take for granted, and what doctors seem to require from gun owners without doing anything in return, it has created a situation that, or over time has created, whatever you want to say. There is a situation where a lot of gun owners are apprehensive about bringing up firearms with doctors, and doctors don't understand firearms owners. So Walk the Talk America sees that as an issue, and over the last 6 years has attempted by multiple ways to deal with that issue and correct that issue, and have an actual, what's the word, like, take action and not just illuminate the issue and try to capitalize on it somehow, but instead has done things, shows up to events with a point of view from gun owners, has created curriculum for doctors, for the medical community to be trained or skilled, what's the word, like skill build in the area of firearms owners, so they understand what it's like to interact with a firearms owner. Things that can have potentially real world effects when we're talking about people who need to talk to therapists and psychiatrists and counselors and all the different words for that kind of, just getting some help from a professional who understands how our brains react to things like trauma and abuse. And when we're talking about EMS and military and law enforcement, we're talking about people that get, drop down stairways and stand next to things that explode, and are in little tiny metal devices that either go up or down and have weird pressures, and wear helmets. And whenever you're wearing a helmet, there's a reason for that. Your head's getting smashed around, and all that kind of trauma to the brain has consequences. And for whatever reason, again, in society, we don't talk about that stuff. But as gun owners, we're abused by the results of all that. And Walk Talk America is one of the few organizations even focused on this, and probably the only one that's consistently made progress in real world. There's some others that are in, adjacent, that have done some things, and there's a couple that are adjacent that are just sitting there, just to say that they've got it, putting, what do you say, like talking the talk or whatever. But Walk the Talk is doing that. So anyway, the valid thing, I think I've been ranting about this for a reason. There's a auction coming up on Tuesday from Pot of Gold Auctions, which is a cool people in Phoenix that facilitate raising funds for this organization. So they get some funding from the industry, which is good. Not enough, in my opinion, but they do get some funding. But this is another way for the community, us as capitalists, to flex that muscle. That our wallet is a muscle, is how we vote. We, as capitalists, we vote with our wallets, and we can talk a lot of talk. We can certainly buy the fuck out of red dots made in China, right? We can worry about grip angles and buy things from Turkey that have to do with, the grip angle that we've been sold on. But how often do we flex that muscle to buy those exact guns with Walk the Talk America stuff stenciled all on it, from somebody who's probably cool? I don't think they're sending that to China to get stenciled, right? It's probably some company that's cool here, and doing it through Pot of Gold, and I'm assuming all the profits are going to, or a number of the profits, whatever it works out to, an appropriate amount of the profits everybody's happy with. I don't know what the ratios are. Go to Walk Talk America. So that's got to be their best plug ever, right? Like our ranting 12 and a half minute.
All right. Hello.
But I guess that's, again, when we're talking about earlier, watching some guy rant for 2 hours, I was like, okay, I get you. I could be upset that this guy is just raking in millions of dollars. The guy who he's ranting about for 2 hours is a dick. Like, I've never liked the guy he's ranting about. because he does. He just sits around making millions of fucking dollars all through the times when you're starting your organization, and everybody else we've talked about today and other people we haven't, like, started organizations, and then when it was cool and like, yeah, let's keep this going and like have an actual path and let's do it, right? Let's start something and do it. And then through the bullshit of 20 that everybody like just acts like it's no big deal because, oh, I got my hobby thing going. Yeah, guess what? A bunch of people were like barely 5 or 6 years into organizations and had to weather through that. Nobody showing up and shit. Anyway, and then all through that silence, silence, the whole thing we've talked about in past shows about the rallies and stuff, the growth of rallies all through that time. Yeah, all through that time. That guy was about 3 years into being a millionaire, probably. Not one fucking peep. Now, when the rally happens, there's like 6 or 8 of them showed up at the rally and were like, I agree with whatever anybody on the panel is saying, and I'll be available for selfies right after. Like, come take your pictures with me and buy my merch. And then anyway, so we've got those guys who not one peep making millions, and then some guy's going to rant for 2 hours. Like, I get it, I understand it, but at the same time, why not rant about how great Walk Talk America is for 2 hours, and then fuck that guy who's exploiting us? He's only exploiting people who want to be exploited anyway. It's not like anybody's forcing anybody. The 9mm-ists, they do force. They use peer pressure. They do unscrupulous things. But the rest of gun owners, they're decent. So if somebody buys a 1911, there's nothing wrong with that. You're allowed to do that. I'm just saying, I'm just going to let the person who wants to try to sell them the 1911 and the person buying the 1911, just let them do that quietly to themselves, right? Like, if I'm going to spend time on the internet talking about something and rallying the troops behind something, let's not worry about ragging on somebody who's a dick. Let's chat up Walk Talk America, or maybe Pot of Gold, who's helping Walk Talk America do this thing, or maybe the organizations, the companies that gave the stuff to the raffle, right? It's not a raffle, to the auction to help the cause, or maybe just talk about the cause itself, and the suicide is a real issue. Well, again, I don't know what the hell euphemism we're supposed to say so that the robots don't know we're talking about what matters. I think it was going to GRPC in Dallas in 2017. No, it wasn't 17. It was 2018. No, it couldn't have been 18. Anyway, whatever year it was that I went to Gun Rights Policy in Dallas, I think it was Dallas, is when... No, I'm wrong. It was 15 in Phoenix. It was sort of what opened my eyes in more than one way, but I'm almost positive that's where... Nope, it was Chicago. Okay, I don't remember. It was a long time ago at a gun rights policy conference. I was in the lobby, and I try to cover the event, especially by whatever one I'm thinking of. I know I was standing in the lobby because I had already been to enough of them to know that the people in the conference are about to go on break or whatever and come out. And I was going to get some pictures of like the lobby, which is a bunch of tables from organizations, and the person standing there with like, to answer questions about those organizations. So imagine like a big empty room, minus the tables and the people standing at them, but like, a crowd is about to pour into this room. So I was going to take some video or some pictures of that, pouring out of the audience or whatever, coming into that area. And as I was standing there, that's when I was either talking to, I don't think I was talking to her. I think somebody else was talking to her, but since it was a quiet room, I was able to, just hearing what they were saying. And that's where she was saying almost what I just said, that we're okay with talking about a broken arm, oh, I have to shoot with my other hand, in fact, we'll have a conversation with each other, like, oh, if you got to shoot with your off hand, like, here's how I would do it, and here's how I would, I would put my holster on the other side. Oh, no, I wouldn't. I would do this. We'll talk about that all day. And then, when do you start shooting again with a broken wrist? Do I start shooting my 50 or do I go to a 22? We'll have a conversation about that all day. But when it gets to like, I wasn't feeling great about, I don't even know how you have a conversation because we don't, we don't have them. But you want to have some conversation about like, I was feeling kind of fuzzy in my thinking and I wasn't sure. I couldn't remember if 9mm was good or not. If somebody has a starting conversation like that, we don't, we're like, okay, why don't you talk to somebody else about that? Like, let's talk that offline or whatever. We don't. And I'm not saying we should. I just don't, I understand that it's something that, well, especially at the time and even now, we don't really have. And I'm not saying it's just gun owners. I mean, I'm not trying to give us shit or anything. It's just that, in society, we don't have a great way of just having conversations about mental health. But since we're persecuted the most, we have the most to gain from figuring out how to have those conversations. So I think that was the revelation when I heard that lady talking about, she was an author talking about her book. Man, I'm all over the place. There was a lady talking about her book in front of me to somebody else. And while I was kind of waiting for that shot to happen, or the people to come out of that room. And that's when I went, wait a minute, I've been sitting here worrying about gun rights, I guess, gun owners' rights, right? And when we look at it as a fight, we look at it as a war, and not just like being persecuted, but like as something that we have agency in. Is that the way to say it? Like something that we are a part of and we're not just victims of. Then yeah, why are we secede all this land? Why do we just say, yeah, suicides exist and we have to think of that as a black eye on on us, like it's somehow our fault or something because guns exist? Like, no, they don't talk about other types of suicides, and they never put that, I don't know what number of suicides is with guns. I can't believe it's number one, because there's other things like pills and razor blades, but nobody puts suicides on the razor blade industry. Like the razor blade industry doesn't have to put their eyes to the ground and talk about something else when suicides come up, because everyone in the room looks over at them. Same thing with pills. Like the pill industry doesn't have to step aside whenever the suicide topic comes up, and it's intentional, and it's something that we don't have to just take, I guess, laying down or something. Is that the way to say it? I don't know if that's what But anyway, it was with her thing that many years ago that I started thinking, this is seriously one of the most important, I don't know what to call it, like strategies or elements of the strategy that we're neglecting completely. There's probably other things we neglect completely, like, safety or something that we just take for granted, that we're not letting the rest of the world know how safe we are, for example. We don't wear that on our shoulders like we should, probably, because we just take it for granted that we're safe, because we're dealing with things that are super dangerous, and we understand that we're all rational, so therefore we're super safe. But because we're so comfortable and aware of that, we don't even think of that as like something we should be bragging about. But we make a couple of memes about it, right? Like, with this many guns, there's like 3 million. There's 3 million people in the United States, or 300 million people in the United States. There's 300 million guns in the United States. If we were a problem, you'd know it, or something like that. We make fun of that.
Yep.
But if we could turn that around and be like, are you really as scared of guns? There's as many. You look out on the street and you see every car out there. There's that many guns out there. Are you really afraid of guns? Like, you would never leave your house if you were afraid of guns. You're not afraid of guns. You just don't understand guns. You just don't understand where guns are or how many guns there are. You're not afraid of guns. There's everyone has guns, minus maybe a few, or at least the people that you see in the world. You don't have to know them. If you can see 100 people, whatever it is, 70 of those people have guns. 30 of those people have guns on them in their pocket. You're not afraid of guns and gun owners. You've been told to, but you're really not. And those guns and gun owners are so unthreatening that they don't have a sign that says, don't be afraid of me, I'm a gun owner, but you don't have to be, you know what I mean? Like, that's the frustrating part. And I guess that's my rant, is that if I'm going to be mad about somebody for something, it's going to be for ignoring all that while they became a millionaire, not the fact that they're just a millionaire. And I'm certainly not going to get mad at the people who are suckers, like the people that, like, I was watching that 2 hour, I didn't watch the whole thing, I skipped through, but I was like discovering that somebody went 2 hours complaining about this other channel. The thing that they were complaining about, I guess, was a live chat where the millionaire was going like, oh, I'm poor. And the audience was dropping super chats like there's no tomorrow. Like if money was going out of style. Like, holy moly, there was so many. I've never seen so many super chats, even in like, oh, Massachusetts is getting wailed on. Let's go live and all the money will go to the Massachusetts, like, goals or something. Or like New Jersey's getting wailed on and we're going to go live and all the money will go to the New Jersey something, a firearms association.
Yeah.
So, like in those kind of things, like, it'll be a trickle of super chats occasionally. But in this show, millionaire crying about how you can't be a millionaire, super chat, super chat, super chat, super chat, super chat. I'm I can understand why you'd go live and go complain about that. But at the same time, go live and complain that we don't have a way to have a decent conversation. We can't convey our situation with suicide, if I'm allowed to say it. You know what I mean? And that's the messed up part. Like they already get it, so we can't get paid on YouTube. We can't talk about or show a gun. We can't hold a gun. But now we can't even talk about the thing that is used against us. But we got Brooke out there. Welcome. Is there a show scheduled? I don't know if I've seen one yet. But this is a good excuse. I'll go out and edit our show so that it links to Brooke's show. When's the last time you hung out with Brooke?
Brooke called me. Did she call me? Text me? Left a message? I don't know. Just to say, hey, how you doing, Gun Bunny? Or largest gun bunny in America. Just wanted to say that. And then she was gone. So that was pretty cool.
That might be my last one. So I think she did call and just say something like, hey, just calling to say, hey, I'm driving somewhere.
That's pretty cool on her part. I appreciate it. But yeah, I actually met this person that you're talking about at SHOT Show. Got introduced with some other friends.
You're not talking about Brooke. You're talking about the other guy. Actually,
I met Brooke at SHOT too. I actually met Brooke in real life at SHOT too. But yeah, I was talking about the other guy. And it was. I watched his channel. Take it, leave it, whatever. And then I just saw the what do you call that? The screen, the video name as I was flying past, because again, know him in one way or another. We've done something together, been as part of the same project, excuse me, that whole thing. And I didn't know what it was. I just thought it was more of his usual clickbaity titles. So I didn't know he was going through anything. Then to hear people all over him because he's going through financial problems. Whatever. I got nothing, bro.
If we're talking about the same dude, yeah, it's like, well, it's
he came into this with
the
a whole
only one.
bunch of
It's not the first one, and it's not the last one. Like this is just and as far as I know, like I think of the cycles, this guy's like third cycle, maybe fourth. Like I don't think about it that much anymore, but he's certainly not first or second cycle. Like first cycle, actually, shit, he'd be like third or fourth cycle, because I'm trying to even think when the first cycle of, I don't even know what we're calling cycles, but if we're calling like cycles, I'm gonna call them like the exploiters. I think that's a fair thing, because they're just people that are marketing people. They're people that understand how sales work, and they walk into guns and go, oh, these people are suckers, because there's a bunch of suckers. There's suckers everywhere. It's just that what we don't have and we didn't have in guns was somebody exploiting us, basically sucking the sales out of us. I think that first started, well, I keep saying it first started in 2013 when the video game agents, the people that were running the video game channels for the video game YouTubers, like the people that were playing the money and making like the real deals with them, that were making them real money, decided that they could walk over to guns. They, from FBS Russia and them, they all like knew they could walk over to guns. And when they first came over is when Sandy Hook happened. So boom, it was just like the perfect storm of fucking news and bullshit and anti-shit and everything happening at the same time. So bam, there was just a shit ton of money. So I consider that to be the first of like the people that made a decision, like, because it happened in Sandy Hook. If it would have just happened out of nowhere, like, hey, guns are popular, you can make money, and some people said, let's do it. But what happened is they said, guns are popular right now because they're about to be taken away, because Obama just said he's going to do 23 executive actions and take away guns in a way that no other president has ever done it before, in some kind of weird war on guns type of shit. And that's when they decided, let's double down and make money and ignore the politics, except for the rah, rah, rah. And then shit tons of them took $10 a membership from the NRA for years, and then as soon as the NRA wasn't cool, stepped away. And as soon as it was cool to hate on the NRA, would make memes bitching about the NRA, making money on their memes bitching about the NRA. So that part of it, like I say, has been around for a while. This guy is like third or fourth gen, and the thing is, by then, like by his level, they came in millionaires. Like I don't know where he came in, like before he came in, a lot of these people came in poor. But all they had to do is literally, I mean, you can do it right now. Go watch a video on how to make money on YouTube and apply it to guns. If there's not already a how to make money on guns on YouTube video. So literally, this guy didn't do anything secret sauce. He just literally did the basic, like least amount of effort. And that's why another reason why it's like lame. Like if you're that good
Mhm.
that you can put that little effort in and just follow some recipes, then how hard would it have been to every fifth video was like worry about what's happening in Washington State? And here's the other thing: when these people are making millions of dollars, they don't. I guess some of them like accidentally make millions of dollars, but most of them figure out what's making them money, and then they double down on that, and then that makes them make more money. They triple down on it. And so, in other words, they're looking at analytics. They know what their people are coming from, who they are, what kind of shit they're buying. So all they got to do is factor into their, if they wanted to, okay, you're coming from Washington State, and now, as soon as I get 25% of my audience from a state, we incorporate, or $25 or $2,500 or $25,000 from a state, we spend 10% of our marketing budget on sending it to that state. They could have just as easily incorporated and Second Amendment advocacy into their models.
Mhm.
And here's why I say I'm bitching about this, because I'm doing the same thing as I'm bitching about, right? But the thing is, if we would have all, because I'll include myself, like I just sat there watching it and I didn't realize it either. Nobody's perfect. But if we would have all incorporated Second Amendment advocacy into our shit back in the day, it would have just been part of gun culture. And if we would have done that, then we would have easily been able to incorporate the suicide awareness into it. And then that would be part of gun culture. And we would be done with all this already. Because as soon as we own how to deal with the conversation about suicide, it's over, because then gun deaths go down to 11,000, and those 11,000 are mostly murders from criminals, which is easy to say, we're
Mhm.
not the murderers. And then the other part of it is people defending themselves from murdering criminals. So it's really difficult for them once they get rid of suicides, but they're depending on the fact that we won't talk about suicide because YouTube won't let us talk about suicide. But somebody does address mental health awareness, which is a politically correct, more like a what's it called, the not an analog, what the thing is, the thing called, the
Analytics.
no, the other thing, the thing that watches what we're saying. I can't think of the
Oh, mhm. The
um
AI, the
yeah,
bot.
the bot that watches what we're saying. It doesn't care if we say mental health awareness, but when someone said something prevention Saturday, which is what it was, that was all of a
Mhm.
sudden blacklisted, and you couldn't recommend the
Of
channel to
course.
the junk. Anyway, Brooke was asking, what is the Amazon link? Let me grab that Amazon link. If anybody wants to click on the stuff or buy stuff on Amazon, you're welcome to. We do have a link for that. Algorithms, that's what I was trying to say.
Oh,
Algorithm.
okay.
Because when we say robots, what we're really talking about is a mathematical script that can listen to everything we're saying and apply some logic. And that logic is, if you say the word SU whatever, then it's must be violent, or it must be self-harm or something. So they took it off air. Maybe we're not even on air, who knows? But that was their reasoning, I think. Then same with guns. They made up that smarter everyday guy, figured out how to use tracking AI to see a gun in a video, gave that to YouTube, or at least gave the idea or gave this technology to YouTube. And then they said, oh, this will stop self-harm, or this will stop violence. But in reality, it just stopped regular people from showing off their toy to their friends, or their hobby to their friends, or their collection to their friends, right? Or their tool to their friends. But I put a link up there to the Amazon shop if you want to buy stuff. And you can buy anything you want on Amazon. If you use that link, then we get a cut. We appreciate it. Thanks. But Brooke has a show in about 3 hours. We're only 2 hours in. We're doing pretty good. But in 3 hours, or 6 p.m., well, is that 9 p.m. Eastern? I didn't realize the show was that late Eastern. Because here it's either 6 or 7, I guess. But anyway, in a couple of hours, Brooke will do a show called Mental Health Matters, where each week for years now, for a long time, she'll spend maybe 20 minutes or so just talking about the concept of mental health awareness, some of the stuff I just mentioned there. And here's the thing: understanding that they use the number of firearms deaths against us is one thing. That's like your first level, right? Then understanding that 2/3 of those deaths are suicides. Like once you've okay, now I get it. I can see why we'd be pissed, because they're using suicides to suggest that guns are dangerous.
Hey, too late now, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I just know as I'm saying it, I'm like, I'm risking my whole channel here, I think, saying this so many times. But when we figure out, and we're in the person who's figuring this out, like going through this, figures it out that like, oh, wait a minute, like this is double nuts, because the people that are choosing this or deciding this or following through with this are often, you know, I don't know what to say, like, have dealing with things that are from their occupation or from their history and sort of stuff. And it's not necessarily like catching the cold and you can't, you know what I mean? Like 5 minutes later, it happens. Like, it's more like it's something that can be dealt with and it can be understood. But because of either societal things or cultural things, like, what is it? Like, I don't think there's anybody out there actually working against having discussions about this. It's just that because it's something that isn't part of ours, I don't know what the word, lexicon, like it's not part of our vernacular. There's people we never knew that there was these bars in place. People like Brooke are discovering that there's these like unnecessary safety, quote unquote, mechanisms that make it difficult to have valid conversations about this. But I don't really think anybody's out there like twisting their mustache and saying, haha, we're stopping the gun owners from having these conversations. Understanding that, it's like, what's the word? Like, it's not, there's no ceremony here. Like, nobody's given Brooke like a big award ceremony. There's no like, let's all vote for the person who's doing the most awareness, like, so it's just a unpopular, not in the spotlight thing to do. But there are people doing it. And I want to thank Brooke for doing that each Saturday around here to get back to that she's doing a show here in a few hours. And she's not trying to cure nothing. I don't think she's not trying to solve nothing other than make the conversation about mental health comfortable, part of our something that we're able to do, so that it doesn't have to be pushed, but that when they try to push at us, we are comfortable and able to respond in a way that's useful and not emotionally like knee jerk or whatever, kind of just, in other words, we're able to, what's the word, instead of just react, we're able to respond instead of react. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, we need to get proactive, and Brooke and Walk to Talk America. And I haven't heard from Sarah in a while, but I mean, she shot me a message recently, but
well, there's the Armory Project, I think it's called, in Louisiana, that is doing good. And then there's Kenny Barlow's company with the locks, Regal. I think even though they're not nonprofit, they're a company. I'm going to start including them in the. You've seen what Regal is doing with the locks that use the, what do you call that, fingerprints and that kind of thing, whatever, to make locks basically less annoying, to make the access more interesting or faster, I guess, so that people are more likely to use them, less likely to ignore them. And doing that with buy more gun locks, like Smith & Wesson makes locks or something, and just has like buy more gun locks campaign. That's one thing. But I think Regal is, what's the word, like laying into the whole, working with Walk Talk America to make it let's be aware of this. Let's be aware that, if we have concerns, we're allowed to own equipment that allows us to deal with our own concerns in a way that is proactive. And well, anyway, I think I would consider them worth mentioning with the Walk Talk America conversation.
Yeah, no, I didn't know anything about it. I don't trust biometric safes and biometric
Oh my
locks
goodness. Did you see this?
at all.
I did not know about this, but her son got into a situation, so that's taken attention away.
Yeah. Oh, another one? Yeah, I did know. Yeah, I was aware of that. Oh, cool.
Yeah, Brooke
I
is
just
saying
read her
that South
latest.
America is building a gun lock / storage group. So that's an interesting evolution of that aspect.
Oh, that's good because that's actually physically something being done too. Yeah, I didn't know about Sarah's son. I mean, I know he's gotten into accidents before, wasn't aware. Usually she reaches out to me when she's on and just, makes me aware of why she disappeared or what's going on in her life. And she hasn't recently. Um, so, no, that really sucks. It's good Walk the Talk America is doing that. I use them as examples of people in the firearm industry doing something. Matter of fact, was talking to two of the ladies Thursday night about the fact that the firearms industry is the one that's reaching out, trying to help, and trying to make a difference. Because we know, what did Brooke say? Unaliving is not a firearms problem. It's mental health. It's a lifetime situation. It's something going on. The last thing it is a gun problem. A gun is just a means of completing that mission that this person put themselves on. Like tall buildings do the same thing. Ropes do the same thing. Standing on a railroad track and wait and pulling the snidely whiplash does the same thing.
Yeah.
And so anyway, my issue with it is always the disingenuousness of it. The people. Now, I'm not saying everyone who uses that argument is disingenuous because that's not true at all. But the data and the people that gave them that data are disingenuous. They really don't mean that. They don't care. You've never heard them talk about preventing that if it didn't include banning firearms. If their solution didn't include banning firearms, they didn't bring it up.
I'm going to switch topics and go back to.
Yep.
I don't think we hit this one yet. The Plain Nut had mentioned when we were talking about the stuff from Walk Talk America. I think that's what happened. Is I was about to go back to this one. I started talking about the auction and then got all tripped out on Walk Talk America. So
Okay.
that's what happens. We get on tangents here. We're old. So getting back to the comment though from an hour or 2 hours ago, Plain Nut had said only complaint I've heard about that Ruger Magpul combo, the RXM, is basically Magpul hasn't been coming out with the different grip modules that they said they would. Nothing on the gun itself. So in other words, mechanically it's working. People like the form factor and stuff. But one of the features of it was supposed to be that Magpul would be making the frame, right? So Ruger would make the insert and the guts, and then because that's how people like stuff now, modular platforms, so that things can be made for it. And then Magpul, who makes great polymer in the USA, would be kicking out. I imagine the idea would be different size frames, different color frames, right? Like different options to the frames or something. Ideally, a lot cheaper than buying a bunch of different guns. I didn't know that factor. So I've seen them in gray and stuff. I don't know. I haven't,
So
they're not been on my radar. So I haven't been shopping for them or anything. I don't know what the details are there.
other companies are making those, so it's not on Magpul. Other companies have stepped in, so you can get them from third party.
Okay, so it's just that Magpul hasn't made them, but they are available, just not from Magpul.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's what I heard because I actually said the same thing. I don't know if it was in a chat or whether it was on whatever. I was like, yeah, where are all these chassis that we were supposed to be getting? Because I ain't seen nothing. And they were like, yeah, because they come from other companies, not Magpul. So if you really want one and to change the look, I guess you can actually go look for it. I didn't. I just was like, I was unaware other companies did it, and then I left it alone because I really don't own one and don't care.
Yeah, I think that's well, sort of the model of like the Glock clones, right? Like Glock they didn't do it intentionally or nothing, but they made a form factor or a platform, or whatever you want to call it, and then other companies came along and started doing their 2 cents. SIG definitely did. Do other people make SIG chassis? I'm assuming they do for that SIG modular thing. And then it would make sense that if somebody's already making chassis for other guns, that they're just going to get that Ruger piece and figure it out and not wait for Magpul. Now I could see somebody wanting the Magpul quality and like Magpul style or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I can see it too, and I understand why people wait for Magpul. Magpul got the reputation. Magpul have the product, but I totally get You're not going to do it? Okay, cool. Watch this. Hold my beer.
Yeah.
And other companies are making it happen.
All right, and then going back to Pack Rat was saying earlier, this was barely an hour ago. Just wondering how about the stuff we used to do to our guns during the matches that he used to run. So that's making me think back. So he's referring to out here in Arizona, we have, or in Tucson at least, we have a couple of 3-4 ranges at the time, I think, that were outdoor ranges. And Pack Rat lived, I think he lived up by the one that he brought people into town to do different competitions and stuff, or not competitions, to do different kind of classes and stuff. Is that how it started? And then there was a competition being held in Michigan that was called ACTS, ACTS, and it was the Association of the American Association, no, wait, the American Confederation of ACT, Tactical Shooters. And the idea was that there was pistol CCW type competitions where you're going to wear like a CCW type pistol. And I think in IDPA, you just wear it. And in the other one, IDPA and
IPSC.
IPSC, you wear your gun on the outside. Anyway, one of them is a little faster and one of them's a little bit more realistic. I can't remember which one's which. And they often point at the other one and act like they're the other one. So it's really hard to keep track there. But anyway, there was the two like major CCW ones. But the main thing is they were only CCW pistols. One of them let you have like bells and whistles, and the other one was like stock. But essentially they were all pistols. And then you could do like the Iron Challenge. I don't even know if that was a thing yet, but you could do like some kind of a 3-gun. And now you had a shotgun and a rifle and a pistol, which sounds cool if like you're some kind of Rambo movie thing. But in real life, who's walking around with all three of those things? So I think what the coolest thing for me with Axe was that that Axe competition that was happening in Michigan was that it was pistol and rifle. And I thought that was a lot more realistic. I think you even carried your rifle and then you would move to your pistol. And it was like way more realistic for like just I need to go out and use both my rifle and my pistol for some sort of chaos that's happening, rather than CCW, which is appropriate. Like, fine, I don't have a problem with it. I want to train I want to do something besides CCW, but it wasn't like this 3-gun where I don't like shotguns personally. And I just I think a lot of people, because the Axe was so popular, I think a lot of people agreed that like you just don't need shotguns all the time in a competition when you're just trying to practice your skills with your rifle and your pistol. But anyway, what I really liked about it too is that enough people showed up that it wasn't a ton of work. It's just one of those things. If only 2 or 3 people show up, everybody's doing all the work of taping and setting up and taking down, and it's a real chore to go out. And if too many people show up, it just gets to be just a boring. It's not the same. So it was like a good like size, like enough people showed up that like not everybody was having to do everything, and there wasn't anybody just sitting around. It was a good size, good group of people. And I don't know everybody, but I knew a lot of the people because I was taking so many classes back then that I knew a lot of these people were taking classes and they were going to Axe in an effort to exercise what they had learned or to practice what they had learned. And because it was a bunch of different people from a bunch of different backgrounds and classes and stuff, it wasn't like 20 people that all went to the same class just doing drills. It was like this mix. So it was a really cool mix. And then there was also like a aspect of it that, man, this was like 27 and through 2010, something like that. So it was the middle of the war on terror. Like it had not just started. It could have been going on for a little while. People kind of thought they knew what the war on terror gear set was. And that was already coming back to the United States. And then people were, we were judging each other on like our appropriateness of what was happening, at the time for the global war on terror. So everybody's gear was either I never paid attention to gear, or like I'm a 1980 SWAT guy, or I'm current global war on terror, or I'm current whatever they tell me to buy on the catalogs, because this was still before YouTube influencers. So anyway, it was a pretty fun time. In my opinion, what he's asking about is like the way that we MacGyvered everything. Like we would, at least everybody I hung out with, I don't know if we were emulating anybody as much as like we're just going to make it work. And I was personally like poor, so I wasn't putting a lot of effort and like a lot of money into my stuff. And I didn't have any interest in emulating the stuff that was being issued, but my friends all had stuff that was expensive. They worked at gun shops and stuff. Like they had expensive stuff that was cool, and they set it up like what was currently being used by global war on terror, and we're like experiencing what it was like to use gear that way from zero. It's not like they were, comparing it to some experience they had. They were just setting it up that way and running it that way. And eventually they started taking classes and learning ways to run it and stuff. And then the classes, the axe matches, I should say, were an opportunity for all to come together and show what we had come up with and then test it. So axe was pretty awesome. I quit going at some point for lots of reasons, mainly because it's like more than an hour drive. The way it's in Tucson, it's only an hour away, but with any traffic, it's like 2 hours away. So it's just a hassle to get up there and come back from it every weekend. But it wasn't the money thing as much as I basically, you know how it is when you figure out your gear and you're done. Like you don't need to practice anymore. That's the level I attained. Like I got to a point where I might have missed every once in a while, but it was intentionally. Like I intended to miss those misses. So in a way, they were actually hits. So I felt like I just didn't need to practice anymore. So that's one of the reasons I quit going. But then, well, I don't know what happened after that, but let's just say that during that time, man, it was thoroughly enjoyable to go up there and I don't know, find something at a gun show and go, I'm going to incorporate this into my gear somehow. And then be like, oh no, that melted. Like that was a dumb way to do it. Or like, wow, that does work. Or like so many times the guys would go, you got to do it this way. You got to do it this way. And I'd be like, you're stupid. Don't tell me what to do. And then I'd do it that way. And I'd be like, damn it. And then like 3 weeks later, I'd be telling somebody else like, oh, you got to do it this way. So it was pretty fun. And enough steel that we didn't have to tape. Like I'm lazy. So I'm a big advocate of not having to do stuff when you're having a match. And I think the axe were run that way from what I remember. Maybe not ideal, like an all steel match would be ideal. And they did have paper, but as far as comparing it to like I'm going to call it like do you call IDPA FUDs? Am I allowed to say that? Or is that I think that's appropriate. Like, but going to like an IDPA match, like they would get mad if you didn't do something like according to the way. And I'm like, I've never been here before. How am I supposed to know there's a way? Like either give me a freaking big piece of paper with a list on it or something that tells me the ways I'm supposed to do stuff. But anyway, the weirdness of the stiff, I'm gonna call them stiff, like those IDPA things. I only did them a couple of times, and the reason I never went back is because they were so boring and stiff. And then the people just sat around talking about their gear in between, in boring ways, like not even fun ways. So IDPA sounds like a craft beer. No, IDPA is a winery, dude. IDPA is like a bunch of really old people showing up at a winery with those denim pants, those shorts on, with shirts tucked in, and then talking about I would say the craft beer would be some sort of pistol, maybe the 2011s or something, because a little younger crowd is what I'm saying, right?
Oh,
The
well.
IDPA at this point is a little older, I think, like the wine crowd.
Well, if you really want to have fun, you go to SAS matches, which is Single Action Shooting Society, which is the cowboy shooting guys.
They're old, that's for sure. But they're cool. They're not old and boring. They're old and funny.
They are a unique set of individuals, and they also have their own outlaw match version where everybody is not so strict. And we have an organization here called Hole in the Wall Gang. They used to be in Jackson, New Jersey. And that's who I met going into this. And they were just cool as hell. So think about this. You can either come full blown dressed up in the cowboy era gear that's real, like real cowboys dress, not like Hollywood portrays cowboys, or you can come in dressed like Hollywood portrays cowboy guys. Back in the day, Roy Rogers, Lone Ranger looking stuff with the freaking shiny guns and the pearl handles, and you get to make up your own freaking name if it's not already used when you join. So that becomes your official name, and you get a freaking badge number and a badge with it, and roll with that whole persona and have your gear. And you can have the 2.6 guns and only compete in handgun stuff. You can compete in rifle or shotgun. And the shotguns are 1897 and earlier. I think 1897 or 1899 and earlier. Same with the handguns, where they have to be revolvers though. And they even have a knockoff of that. You can have 1911s. You can go all the way to the what's the name of the Wild Bunch?
Yeah, I think it was like
That movie, The
1900
Wild
or
Bunch. Yep. You
1903
can have
or something. They started making
no.
them.
You can have 1911s in the Wild Bunch competition. So that's how close that goes back. So I mean, they're shooting sports for everybody, and yeah, you can start comparing them to different other hobbies. Because the funny thing that they told me, the guys at the Hole in the Wall said, when you come to our events, the women are around talking about the firearms they're using, and the men are around talking about where they got their outfits.
Yeah, I was gonna say you make it like Outcast is saying cowboy does look like it would be fun. Like, you would think so, right? And your experience out there, I don't know what it's like, but I'm in Tucson, so you get all the people that just live in Tucson and feel obligated, right, to do it. And then Tombstone is right here.
Hmm.
Tombstone's like an hour away, so that's where all the good stuff
Okay.
happens, like, or at least the big stuff happens in Tombstone, but other stuff happens around here too. Anyhow, and then the thing is, people come here because if they want to do this stuff and they want to do it in Tombstone, then obviously they got to come here. So we
Hmm.
get the people that are here, and then the people that show up for it. So it's just like being in Sturgis or something. There's probably people that live in South Dakota that like Harleys, and then once a year,
Hmm.
all these other people show up and they all like live together. So it's sort of like that here. And working in the shop I worked at, Bob was too it was definitely an old west type of shop. Like, I would say 40% of the guns were old guns at the shop, and it was
Hmm.
definitely like 80% used guns at the shop. So I just got a little more insight to the cowboy stuff than some people, and then probably half the people on the planet, now thinking about it. But than a lot of people, just because of my situation or whatever. Now, that being said, there
Hmm.
was at least 2-3 shops in town that were like, they weren't called gun shops, they were called like mercantiles and shit. Like, they were legit living the life of like the cowboy action shooter. Like I said, there's lots of reason to do that out here. So Bob having his shop with guns that were legit old guns is one thing. But when you start thinking about somebody who's cowboy action shooting, are they going to go buy like a $3,000 Colt with papers and take that out to the range
Nope.
every weekend and shoot it? Or are they going to go buy like a Ruger that looks a hell of a lot like it, that costs $600 and it's made to shoot?
Hmm.
That's what they're shooting.
Yep.
But then you get the people that are like, "Oh, you bought the Ruger, huh?" Like, well, I bought the Uberti that looks exactly like the Colt, down to like it's the same parts. It's made with the blueprint, and blah blah blah, made in Italy, and it's blah blah blah. And it's not that it was so much more money, just that they went that extra route and got the legit one. And then you'd get the person who's like, I got a real Colt, and it's real Colt, but it's like made out of this hammer and that thing, like when that movie, the guy takes all the pieces and puts them together, type of thing, which is legit, but it's also it's just like a car. Like, yeah, I have a '57 Chevy, or like I have all the parts of a '57 Chevy be put together on like some frame. Like, yeah, you have one, but it's not the same as having a out the factory one or whatever. And that's this thing. Somebody would shoot that parts one, right? They'd shoot that all day long, but they're not going to shoot one that's all factory correct or whatever. But then you get to the whole thing, and I never knew about all this. You get to the people, like I've mentioned it before, but like the clothing, like, oh, you're wearing real clothing, or like you're wearing
Hmm.
old clothing, or you're wearing clothing that's made in the style by handmade, or you're wearing clothing that kind of looks like it's supposed to. Like, no, 99% of people aren't going to tell the difference between any of these. And then you get the people that are showing up in like the Chinese costume, which most people are going to go, oh, that looks authentic, and this looks like a version of it, right? And all that, like, you're not allowed to just go show up and wear like a bandana and just live peacefully in the world, because the way people are, they're petty. So the person who gives a shit about clothing is going to be like, oh, that's not an authentic bandana, and you're going to be like, I just came out here to go shooting. Like, leave me alone with my
Yeah.
bandana. Or like, that hat is not proper to the era of the rest of your costume or whatever. So it's going to be like, I'm just getting it. Like, and then the other thing I was going to bring up is like, when you think about shotguns for whatever the shotgun event is with the double barrel shotgun, 99%
Hmm.
of people don't think about this either. But the real ones had hammers where you'd put a hammer on a real shotgun, and then old fashioned dudes who were like sitting shotgun in a coach would modify theirs by heating them up and bend them over together so that you could cock both at the same time. So that was a thing. Like, that was sort of a mod that some people did. Now, that being said, modern ones are either made one way or the other. That means when you show up at the thing, if you knew or didn't know about that and you bought one or the other and you show up, that's another thing for people to go, oh, he bought the one. He obviously doesn't know how to shoot because he bought the one with the hammers apart, that kind of thing. And I don't even know if it's a thing where like you buy the one with the hammers apart and mod it yourself and where that would put you in the hierarchy. But there's so many little things to this that I only know about these because somebody would come in and go, oh, I only can get the one with the hammers together. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even realize it. But yeah, some of, what I'm talking about, like on this double barrel side by side, if it's a old fashioned one and they each hammer has to cock, either the hammers are way apart from each other, like nowhere near each other, or they're really close to each other. Like they come to the center of the gun and they're either made that way or modified that way. And I never even paid attention, but it's sort of one of those things. I always thought it was like a, the revolver or the cylinder catch on a revolver, like they're just made this way or that way. But there's a reason, like they're either made wide apart so that you're hunting and you don't accidentally click both and shoot two rounds when you don't want to, or you're sitting on a stagecoach and you want both of them back because you're about to shoot 2 rounds every time you shoot that thing. And again, depending on how you're shooting it at the match or whatever is how you're going to buy that thing. But until you learn all that, you're just buying a shotgun, right? Like, oh, an double barrel shotgun, cool. Okay, I'm just ranting again.
That's all right. I think it's funny because it's true. I love when people assume that they're the first generation to modify a firearm. Like, we've been modifying it since the very beginning, right, homie? Like,
they too. Whoever built the first one, the second guy was like, "No, you take a file to that."
I can put this closer to that. I can do this. It's just the way it is, bro. Yeah, for some reason my headset decided to check out on me and disconnect. So
I was gonna say now you're loud and clear though. I bet you this is your headset before.
Well, that works for me. Then we can roll with this. So yeah, so it was really great to be introduced to these guys. Even though I haven't been back because Jersey being Jersey. Now here's a brand new, really cool thing that I showed up for. And their rules wouldn't allow them to allow me to shoot the event. Because I didn't have a firearms ID card. So I couldn't participate, which I think is a huge mistake. I mean, I still got into firearms. They're like, yeah, you can't touch a gun without, a firearms ID card. Meanwhile, years later, I'm hosting an event. And no, firearms ID cards aren't needed. That's a stipulation whoever formed their thing came up with, so they would, I guess, get less pushback. I don't know. I assume it came from a good place and not a gatekeeping place. You know what I mean? I don't think they did that kind of thing. But it just sucks because it was like, hey, that was an opportunity for me to do something really freaking cool. And my story goes, hey, I got there, I wanted to do the thing, and I couldn't do the thing because they made up rules about the thing. Ineffective rules that doesn't stop someone from, doing something horrible with a handgun in New Jersey. But what it did do was stop me from participating in the cool thing and continually coming back until I got a firearms ID card. It was like, yeah, you can't do this thing. You can't be a part of this thing until you get a firearms ID card. Well, between me getting involved or, seeing it for the first time, the range at Jackson actually shut down for a while because they redesigned it. And I kind of forgot about it. Why? Because I didn't participate the first time. Like if I would have gotten to shoot it, I would have found out where they went when Jackson was closed. And I would have shown up there and I would have been part of the Single Action Shooting Society. But because it was that artificial, or not artificial, but art, what do you call it? Arbitrary rule that the state put in place to, again, create an obstacle between firearms and firearms ownership, I didn't participate.
And it's that subtle shit that moves the Overton window, or it has moved the Overton window in the bad direction. And it's just frustrating because we don't appreciate our wins, because we do have a shit ton of wins. When we've moved it, we've shifted it our way quite a bit as well. But right? Those little slights, they're frustrating because you can see the bigger picture there. You know that it's like one little thing, but it's one little thing that moves the big thing over just another little fraction of an inch. Like you
Yeah,
said, preventing this, but then preventing it means that this is going to suffer. And even though they're not playing 4D chess, they don't know that. They understand that they're stifling though, and this is the consequences of that. That's how it's
100%.
playing out.
They know they don't need to know exactly how it works. They just know further down the line, the more rules are in place, the more ways someone new comes into this, and it's always been like this. So that's the status quo. So sometimes when you come into something and you're still having fun doing it, it's like how much effort are you gonna go put to change that thing if it's already a good time? And it's like, because it could be a better time, or you can have more people, or you wouldn't have to jump through those hoops that you had to jump through to have the good time. You didn't have to wait, the cowboy action thing, you have 2 handguns. Oh, well, that in New Jersey's 2 different permits, and you have to wait 30 days between purchases.
For single
Yeah.
action.
Yeah.
When was it like the last time one of those was used in a crime? Like, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. We were concerned.
I mean, when was the last time someone was killed in New Jersey with a 50 cal? But under Fat Boy Chris Christie, he allowed them to pass the 50 cal ban. Excuse
I'm
me.
pretty
Was
sure it was
him?
New
Oh,
Jersey that also said that wait, did she say that the 50 will cook the deer? No, I think the AR cooked the deer. The 50 would blow away the deer or something like that.
yeah, somebody said something stupid because somehow
150
that had to do with deer. And
maybe it was the airplane. She was like, this can shoot down the airplanes.
well, they're never held accountable because the way they say they're dumb shit, and this is from somebody that was there. They don't say it while we're testifying. They go and say their thing, and then they shut up and let all the pro gun control people speak. So by the time you get up as a pro 2A person that just wants to cook the idiot that said the thing about 50 shooting down planes and cooking deer and all that stuff, well, that was 3 hours ago. No one even remembers the comment, and you just look like a jackass bringing it up. So you have to make your whole freaking speech about that and to circulate around the bad information they give and the fact that they're not held accountable. If you're wondering how to do it, you can just bring up all the dumb things and line them up one after the other and show the idiocracy of it, but you're only going to have 3 minutes. Introduce yourself, throw out their dumb stuff, and then point out how they're never held accountable for being retards, and then close your thing up to close the loop to go, yeah, that's why we get the laws passed that are totally ineffective and don't have anything to do with crime, because legislators are willfully ignorant and they say things like what I've said. And if you can nail some of it, it's not too hard because they're going to say the same stuff. 10 rounds to kill a deer, blow something away, easier to get easier to get a gun than books. Like you could almost
Well, it
call
shows that they don't know what they're talking about, right? Like, and that's the thing. We're bringing it up because we understand. We take for granted that like we can see what they're saying is silly, like it's not sensical, it's wrong, and it's comically wrong. It's not, I mean, like they're saying things that a child would say about something they don't understand, but we don't illustrate that very well. Like it's like an inside joke. We understand it. It's like, I think an example of preaching, another way to preach to the choir. We all look at it and go, but the other side went, they're not wrong. Like, what are you all laughing at? They can, I don't know how they're interpreting that, but what we need to be doing is like putting that up next to someone like a child saying how like cars are bad because they catch fire and can fly or something, like just nonsensical to illustrate like what they're saying is just like dangerously like naive. Maybe that's the right word. Like they just are. And anyway.
Yeah, 100%. And you got to do it in your own, again, time limited way.
Yeah. And that's how do you tag it? Because I guess I was going to say also that in one of the projects I was accumulating, like grabbing as many of those clips as I could, like Dianne Feinstein, it gets she's outside in like the 80s, I think, maybe the 90s, but I think it was the 80s, saying, if we had the votes, America, take your guns or something. And I have that like news clip. She's standing outside of someplace saying that. There's another, like all the good ones, all the juiciest dumbass shit that they've ever, like they in general have ever said over the years, because it's like decades spans, all these dumb things that they've said that are like quotable. But like you say, they're almost, now that I'm thinking about them, almost every single one of them is a press conference where they're just standing in front of microphones saying dumb shit for sound bites, which is exactly why they do this. But then, like you say, there's no accountability, because it would require one of the press to ask the question, and because it's more like a rapid fire of the politician just saying shit to make sound bites, and then they walk away, there is no opportunity for the press person to say, like, I'm holding you accountable for what you just said, or like, just explain yourself. That doesn't happen. It's not like they create the circumstance. And like what you're saying, like the committee hearings and shit, and you've got a moment to testify, how the hell are you supposed to, like, I mean? I don't think you're allowed to bring in like a TV screen and be like, here,
No.
this is what I'm referencing, right? So yeah, exactly. Like that's how they kind of, what do you call it,
And then
own that
when
little back and forth.
when you hit them up with their stupidity, right? When you pointed out their ridiculousness, this is what those little turds do, because asshole did it to me. I finish up. Are there any questions? After everyone stopped clapping, because I have to give myself some dap on that one. It was pretty good what I threw out there. The senator goes, well, that's not why I did this. I didn't propose the bill based on racism. And I think he might have said he didn't appreciate me saying it was. And I was like, does it make a difference if it's still racist and has racist overtone? Boom, boom, boom. You're not to respond. I was like, and of course, all you did was bang a hammer. I said, he brought it up to me and tried to engage me in conversation. I spoke back. Like, you're not going to tell me I can't speak. And he has all, like, you can tell me to leave. You can have me escorted out, but you can't shut me up. You know what I mean? He's not going to say something, get a free freaking swing at me without me saying something back. They might do it
Well,
after you escort me out the room, but you're not going to do it in front of me.
Well, now what you're talking about sounds like too is like, I don't know what they call it, like, is it parliamentary procedure or something? Like there might be different names for that. Like procedure, I think is the right word. But that's just the kind of thing where, I mean, I don't know how all the different places, but like a courtroom is going to have its procedures, right? Like a testimonial in front of Congress is going to have its, like maybe a state level testimonial. Every one of these things is going to have its own like procedures. And I know this from the rallies. That's one of the reasons I liked the years, the era, I'm going to call it, of Second Amendment rallies. For me personally, I forget when this was, like 17 to 20, I guess, 17 to technically 19, I guess. But I knew that there was a concept of a rally, and I watched them like everybody, just happening occasionally throughout the early 2000s, I guess, and 2010s. Because we just weren't cohesive as a community. Like the rallies that happened were like Illinois, just places that had been just railed on over the years, and they've created a resistance that got large enough to create something like a yearly, let's take this one issue, firearms owners' rights, to the legislature every single year. So with the iGold rally that they do every year. Aside from a very few of those, in fact, I can only think of like maybe 3 right now. There was one in Georgia like that. There was Illinois, and there might have been one up somewhere in the whatever you call the New England states. But I can't remember. It might have been Goal, but there was very few. It might be something in Ohio. But anyway, as those rallies started to happen because of the internet, I think, and maybe it's a sort of like, oh, it did work, so let's do it here too. Or like, I went to one, let's start one here. That momentum or whatever happened. And so I was experiencing that they were happening, and then I watched them happen for a number of years, and then decided to go to one. And very much like a gun show, I think I didn't know what to expect. I went to the first one and was like, this is sort of like a gun show in the respect that it brings all these different kind of shooters. Just people that own guns is the only common denominator. Well, I guess own guns and give a shit, right? That's the only common denominator, but that's a shit ton of people. There's a massive spectrum of people, and what they all do is they show up, and it's an experience, right? Because it's just like going to a pro Second Amendment event or rally. Or I'm talking about a rally, I guess, but going to like a gun show, maybe you're standing in line at a gun show sometimes waiting to pay to get in, and you look around and you're like, there's hundreds of other people here. I didn't know there was this many people in my town that casually give this much of a shit to come to a gun show on a Saturday. Like, you know what I mean? Like, these happen all the time, and this many people are here. Like, this is a gun town. Like, I understand that people here like guns. You know, you can see it. So you go to a rally and it's sort of like that, except that nobody's paying nothing. They're just there because they care that much. And you're like, wow, this is really neat. And you kind of look around and you go, if I was at a bus station or the city pool or something, like, I would never know this many people like guns, like this spectrum of people like guns, this like variety of every, you know, the population likes guns, and they're all so interested in rights that they're showing up here. So anyway, that's what I started to like about rallies. But here's the other part that I started to figure out. Go into Albuquerque. No, go into, what is it called? The capital of New Mexico is Santa Fe, I think. So you have to go to Albuquerque and then go like another hour up into Santa Fe. And Santa Fe is old-fashioned Santa Fe. Like, they never put a highway in Santa Fe or anything. Like, it's like adobe buildings and like stuff for like corrals from horses and shit. There's no parking lots or anything. So it is crazy. Like, it is the most ancient town I've ever been in, where you had to like, there was like a whole situation with trying to find a place to park and then walk to the actual place where the rally was. So I think Tony's, hopefully his connection just dropped. Or he got sick of me talking about rallies. But anyway, what I've discovered going to these rallies was just how many people there are in the community, and I guess people that I would have thought, like, why would these people give a shit about gun rights? And then here they are, you know, just like people you'd think like, oh, this guy probably lives in a house in the middle of the desert someplace, showing up here in Santa Fe. These people, there we go. Is that switching Wi-Fi or switching devices?
Hello.
Here he's coming back. Got us.
Yeah.
Anyway, I guess I was just ranting that the rallies are just such a nice opportunity to meet so many people, and I value that, I guess, is what I was getting at. That getting to see some, you know, just standing in the rally audience, looking around at all the other people that cared enough to go through all the shit to get there.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. Especially your first one, you get out there and you're like, holy crap, dude.
Oh, shit.
And I mean, go ahead.
That's what I was getting at. Sorry. Let me just interrupt to finish. So I guess go in there and figuring out how cool it was. And then, so that got me hooked. Then I go back the second time. And I guess I was, the whole time you were gone, I was bitching about parking in Santa Fe, New Mexico, because this is the whole point of this. The second time I went back, I knew about how bitch it was to park in Santa Fe, New Mexico. So I just did the appropriate, right? And I'm pretty sure that me bitching about it as much as I did, I like to take credit for this, but other people, probably everyone there, experienced the same thing. What they figured out is it's an opportunity for like a gun shop that has a parking lot to say, the rally is at 3 p.m. Join us at our gun shop's parking lot at 2 p.m. where the buses will take us over there, so that you can just park here at your leisure in safety, right, of like our gun shop parking lot that we'll be guarding. And then we'll take you over there in a bus. You hang out for the rally and take a bus back over here, like the shuttle or whatever. And I'm like, that's ideal. And like, you know, anybody, Ruger could step in and say, here's $2,000, like, make that shuttle happen. And boom, you know what I mean? Like, that's the kind of stuff that go into these rallies over and over accomplishes. Having one rally is great. Having a rally every year creates that infrastructure. That's now I'll shut up. That's the whole rant, was to get to that.
Yeah, I mean, you're 100% right. And you know, they learn, we learn, everyone learns together, which is really but nothing happens if all you do is complain online. And that's a lot of what I've been saying about Richmond and what's happening in Richmond, Virginia right now, with people complaining about, you know, the anti-gun bills that they're worried about passing, and the fact that so many Virginians, including myself, I'll go ahead and put myself on there, didn't know how it worked in Virginia when a bill passes both houses, that you can still get the governor, petition the governor to veto it, to sign it, but that's your only option. I didn't know if it had anything else. And a friend of mine who moved from New Jersey to Virginia He actually told me about it, and I thought that was pretty cool because again I didn't know, and I'm not going to complain about it about not knowing. It's just I don't live in VA anymore, and I depend on other people to know what's happening in their state. But I will say rallying helps because it gets you around other people and let you know you're not in some kind of vacuum. Like there are others out there who believe in what you believe in and are willing to fight for it. It's just many people don't know it. Like they feel like they're standing alone. Why am I going to go? I'm going to be the only one there. No, you're
And I'm just gonna say, like, let's say you go to a rally and you see that somebody there is a plumber and you needed plumbing done, or you know somebody that needs plumbing done. If nothing else, it's like, oh, I know a plumber that's probably cool, and that plumber can go, oh, this is a customer that came from the rally. Like now I know that this customer is cool. There's that
Gun
kind
for
of
Hire range. Go to Gun for Hire's website. He has a whole section dedicated to Pro 2A businesses in New Jersey that have gone to rallies, that have donated, that have participated, that have helped. Yeah, I want to throw that out there real quick. Anthony Calandro's that already set up
Yeah, that's
in
super
New
cool,
Jersey.
because then that creates a
Yeah.
permanent record to say thank you to those companies too. That's super cool.
So if you're looking for a landscaper, if you're looking for somebody to host a kid's birthday party, bake a cake, all of that is there, including Second Amendment is for everyone. Is on that thing. But yep, it is great that Anthony created that to actually point out and celebrate Pro 2A individuals, small companies in New Jersey. So if you can check it out, please do. I know it's a little thing, but I've learned that New Jersey is almost like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. Almost everyone knows someone here. And if you're a pro gun person and your friend or relative is one, point them to Anthony Calandro's page, gunforhire.com, and they can go check it out for themselves. And if they need something, they can give their business to a actual Pro 2A business.
I've seen a couple of places do the support those who support us type of lists. I think that's super valid.
Yep.
Let's see. So Outcast said that older stuff isn't cheap. Might want to try borrowing it if you can't, or if you can, for trying it for the first time. I think that's great advice for almost everything, right? Like definitely shooting stuff. I guess I do know a couple of people who might be a little probably apprehensive at first, but most people I know that are into guns, if you go, hey, that's cool, can I shoot it? They don't even ask twice. Like they're just get out of the way, hand you the gun, let you here, take the lane that I've rented, shoot at my paper target, use my ammo, tell me about my gun. You know what I mean? Like I don't know anybody that's not that's like the best way to make friends or whatever. And that's part of the gun culture that why so many guns? I don't know, because they're like collectibles, or they're like objects that you share with others, based on interest. Like, oh yeah, this is the one that was from that movie, or this is the one like what so and so used in Operation whatever, or I just built this one based on I like purple and it looks kind of like the Tootsie Roll package or something, like whatever. And then like that person goes, oh, interesting, and then shoots it, and then inevitably you walk into that other lane or whatever, you walk into their table and you shoot their gun. And but anyway, I think that's a great suggestion, is that whenever you're trying something new, go experience it with empty-handed. Go there without any, without, especially if you're not in the position where you can just throw money around. Like there's no need to buy nothing the first time you experience. And I'm trying to think of all the different things I've done. Even the stuff, well, definitely the stuff I never got into. I'm super happy I never bought nothing ahead of time. But a couple of times, like I thought I knew what I was doing, so I showed up. Like for example, going shooting. We would shoot. I think it was just trap. I don't like shooting skeet, but it might have. I think we were in a trap league, but it might have just been a shotgun league, and we chose trap. It really doesn't matter. We were shooting trap, and I brought my pump shotgun for a while, and I was like, I am not buying nothing. I'm cheap, and I can do just as good with my pump shotgun. I'm just as good. And I kept getting my ass handed to me by everybody from young and old, mostly old people, but because old people can effortlessly kick your ass in such a way that you go, like, I can do better and I should do better. You don't get mad. You just be like, damn it, I can do better than this. So I would get my ass handed to me by people with side-by-sides, and I refused to get a side-by-side. I have morals. So I got an over and under, but eventually I had to get an over and under. Like I was, I just because I thought I could do it. And yes, technically on
Bro,
paper, you pump.
you cannot rack the slide uh,
No,
fast enough.
no, not easy, not
You just can't.
consistently. No, it's
Yeah,
possible on paper. Like, yes, technically every once in a while it can be done, but you have to be amazing to
yeah.
just keep up with people that are moderate with a decent tool. Yeah. And another, why do you have so many guns? Because guns are used for different things, and they're literally specified. Like, what's the word? Like specialized, like literally specialized. But that's one of those things where I showed up. Look, I didn't have to pay nothing. I just took my shotgun, right? But if I would have bought something, I'd have been pissed because I definitely would have bought the wrong thing. I went to a few, hung out for a while, bought exactly what I wanted, like a used Russian over and under. Same way that Turkey's like the place everybody buys stuff from now. Back before Turkey was a
Hmm.
thing, they were buying Winchester, I think, was buying their shotguns from Bakal, from Tool, I think. So it came from the same factory that half the AKs, all the cool AKs come from. So I was all in. I'm like, what? An over under shotgun, 1, made in Russia, 2, made in the AK factory, 3. That was actually number 1 for me. And then when you start looking at over under shotguns, there's the inexpensive ones and the most expensive, and the most expensive have features like 1 trigger instead of 2, or automatic eject when you open it versus not, more moving parts, basically, more engineering versus less engineering. And these Russians had all the short list of all the cool features, like they could eject and they had 1 trigger. They just weren't the smoothest trigger. They weren't the fanciest, but at the same time they were adequate. So for me, it was like the ideal gun, and I can't remember what I paid for it, but it was like used and inexpensive. So I would have bought the wrong gun, paid probably too much because I didn't know what I was buying, right? Figured it out after shooting a little while that I bought the wrong gun, and then been just, probably living with the wrong gun for a long time.
Yep.
Instead, I went with the wrong gun that I had in the closet, learned my lesson, and then waited a minute or two and ended up finding the one. It wasn't too hard because this is Tucson and these are hunting shotguns and hunting doves and what's the other thing? Quails out here is like months and months and months of the year. So we have a billion shotguns out here. So it wasn't hard finding a shotgun once I decided what I wanted. But anyway, that's my little lesson on definitely borrowing if you can, showing up empty handed if you can't, and then just enjoying the gun community because we're super cool about that. Like, I can't think of any other, I guess car communities are kind of the same way.
No,
But I can think of
no.
like cooking and stuff. People will be like, "Oh, you like my chili? Go fuck yourself. I'm never telling you my recipe." You know what I mean?
Well,
Like
yeah, but in the
they
car,
don't even ask your recipe in like a barbecue place. Like some people might share, but like with food, a lot of times it's like, yeah, good luck trying. I'm never going to give you my recipe.
bro, no one in the car community is going, "Oh, you like my McLaren? Take it around the block."
Oh, that's a good point. I guess you're right. I was thinking more like, yeah, you can look at it in the parking lot, whatever. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
you're not even sitting in it. That's true. Unless you're certain girls are going to sit in anytime they want, but everybody else is like,
Yeah.
yeah, you can look at it from over
Hmm.
here. That's why I got this
Yeah.
velvet
Don't
glove
touch it.
so you can touch it. Yeah.
So yeah, to me, that's the people, the gun community. It's funny because I do tell the story, and some people laugh at it because it's a human story, right? I mean, I'm a dude who was, you fall down the internet rabbit hole, and I found the hole in the wall gang in Jersey, and I was like, yo, bro, this sounds freaking cool. It's not. I want to go check it out. It was a Sunday. I called the number. The president of the organization picked up and was like, how did you get my number? And I'm like, hey, I just found it online. He was like, yeah, we're going to change that tomorrow morning. How can I help you? I'm like, hey, I saw this. I want to participate. It sounds like a lot of fun. And he's like, I'm on my way to it now. We're here in Jackson, at Central Jersey. You want to come down? You can come down today. And I freaking jumped in the car and hit the road because I didn't want to miss it. And I get down there, and as I'm coming through the gate, I realized a couple of things. One, didn't tell anyone in my life that I was in South Jersey or Central Jersey, I guess you could call it, at this event. Told no one. And two, I'm about to go hang out with a bunch of white people that think the 1860s was an awesome time in America as a black guy. I'm like, wait a minute, might have been cool for them. It was not for us. oh well, it can't be that bad. And of course, I went in, and it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad at all. These people were great. They were really good to me and everything. Yeah, it wasn't until I got to the gate that I realized I could have put myself in a really bad situation because no one knew where I was. But they turned out to be a great bunch of people, and I'm glad I participated in it. I highly recommend it to others, just based on those guys.
I mean, I'm biased because I've been around the gun community my whole life. Like, I mean, I was a kid going to gun shows almost every weekend. Well, every weekend I possibly could when I was a little kid, and then
Hmm.
going to everything I could with guns my whole life, right? So, which I guess what I'm trying to say is it's not as much as today. Like, you could get really immersed in guns now. Back then, we had a few magazines and like whatever amount of time you could spend at a range on a weekend, but there was no getting together and chatting guns all day long like we can do online nowadays. But that
Hmm.
being said, I'm biased because I've been around the gun community. But I would think of all the communities I would, I would be comfortable doing a trust fall into the gun community. Like they're just, like I said, and probably it's because we got a shared whatever like attitude from the rest of the country, the rest of the communities, right? Like the rest of the population, I guess, where they're either part of us, they understand guns and they're cool, or they're like right adjacent. They know gun owners, so they're comfortable with us, even though they're not gun owners. There's an amount of people. Like I would call my mom like that. She doesn't care about guns, but she knows me, and she knows that somebody that's completely nuts about guns is fine. Like that. So I would call like there's a layer of those folks, buffering us from the rest. But then there's some people that could care less about guns one way or the other, and then there's the people that hate us, right? And anyway, you know what I'm about to say. There's just so many people in that middle there.
Oh, 100%. But I was just looking at it as this seems, again, as a kid that grew up at the gun store and staring in the glass. And even though I was in, Southwestern Virginia, and I'm sure, you know, they just roll their eyes whenever the little black kid with the tiny afro showed up to stick his face in the glass, fingerprints all over it, looking in and naming every firearm they had who it used. They're like, hey, here comes this kid again. But at no point, like I said, until I got to the gate and went, wait a minute, what if everything is the sunshine and rainbows and how I grew up? You know what I mean? Because I'm in a total another state,
Yeah.
around total people that don't know me. I come from a farming community slash county where we all went to the same high school and junior high school. So if someone didn't know me personally as that kid, they knew my mom, they knew my cousins, they knew my family. So that's different than going somewhere where no one knows you. And I'll tell you, it was a great experience. And again, highly recommend it to anyone. But it is funny that it's like, hey, you didn't think about how wrong this could go? Not at all. Not at all. I just jumped into the white van that had free ice cream written on the side. I don't know how I ended up by the roof.
So going back to Packrat said, part of the reason I started doing the axe matches is because you would use real world equipment and it wasn't defined what equipment you had to use. That's another part of it. I was happy that we got to shoot just a rifle and a pistol, but it was also like if you wanted to make it realistic, and I think you could shoot a shotgun. I think it was just long gun. It was pretty open. But so if your decision was like I'm going to shoot EDC, whatever my pistol is, and then transition to like something in a backpack, as long as it didn't like mess with the actual scenario that was in that bay or whatever, that stage of the match, you were pretty much allowed to do what you wanted. So yeah, people who would go to different, well, I'm assuming people went to training, maybe they just watch YouTube videos, I don't know. These were pretty squared away folks for the most part. I'm trying to remember everybody at this point. There was a bunch of people that just went to everything that happened at the range because they were going to, any match that happened, they were going to show up. There's always people like that, at a range. And then there was the people like that enjoyed the axe match. And then there had to be some amount of people who were just testing it or, seeing what it's like. And so each week, I don't know if it was the same people, in other words. So I shot with the same people every week is the other problem, so that we never, except for like people that we were friendly or whatever, but we were there with each other. So we weren't looking for friends or whatever. I wasn't paying that much attention
Hmm.
to other people there. But I'm like I say, I'm assuming most of the people, this was before YouTube and junk. So I'm assuming most of the people either were coming in with whatever they came up with, just what sounded good in their mind or what was instructed to them. But pretty quickly, what was cool about it is you could just, you'd stand there at a match watching the other people shoot. So because it was I'm going to call it eclectic, like such a mix of people or techniques or whatever you want to say, and plus gear. Like Packrat always shot a Daewoo. You know what a Daewoo is?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean
Yeah.
that's a unique gun. There's not that many of them, and it has its own manual of arms. It's a South Korean AK-ish AR is what I'm going to call it. It's unique.
Mm-hmm.
And
Piston AR.
yeah, and I shot an AK, I'm pretty sure most of the time, probably, maybe an AR. I kind of went back and forth. And then people with just everything in between. I'm sure there was people showing up with like lever actions. I might have been like one of those people too. Like we'd get it in our head, like we're going to shoot the Axe match this week with lever actions or with bolt actions or something. But they let you, and then nobody cared, and that's why it was so fun. It was also pretty quick. It wasn't like you had to spend all afternoon or all morning and afternoon out there, as I remember. It was a good size match. But the other part was I don't know. I watched MacGyver. Like I liked that show MacGyver a lot, and so the idea to me of having improvised gear or reuse gear seemed more interesting than buying a bunch of gear that was perfect or was what's it called, specific for one specific use. I could see it. I just had no money to do it, and I didn't really want to spend what money I had on the gear. But I also, I'm cheap, and I didn't have the money. But at the same time, it's not like I wanted to save up for it either. Like I wasn't that interested in that kind of gear. But I was interested in I can't remember. I don't want to be disrespectful because I think it was Paul Gomez who was the advocate of using a Russian landmine pouch as an AK magazine pouch. So in other words, instead of wearing mags on your body, you put them in like a purse, basically, like a landmine. Landmines or claymore mines come in like a little bandolier type material, just like a light denim little pursey thing that you wear over your shoulder. So basically you can carry your landmines, a shit ton of them, into a field and plant them, and then you're not wasting a lot of time with a carry apparatus. It's just, you can throw it away. It's like a bandage almost. It's like a strong bandage, really, right? It's like a flimsy material, but I'm making it sound more flimsy than it is. It's actually very strong. It's like Tyvek or something, right? It's like a material that's very lightweight. It's cotton probably, but whatever. It's a really strong material. Anyway, he was a big advocate of using that as a mag pouch to carry your mags around. And I was like, and I think he probably put a tourniquet in there too. But at the time I was like, I'm going to put a tourniquet in here. I'm going to put a multi-tool, like a Leatherman multi-tool thing, the Mutt, and then a bunch of 30 round mags. And this way you have it's a purse, yes, right? So it's not attached to you. It's not cool or whatever, and it's going to flop around. But in real life, you have your AK laying there, and then you have this little pouch laying there, and it has, I forget if it had 4 or 6 or 8 mags in it, but it had plenty of mags in it. And then it just went over your shoulder like a little purse or like a little satchel, I guess. What do you call that? It's not really a backpack or anything cool. It isn't the best form factor, but for 99% of the time we're not in a massive gunfight, it's the best form factor ever because it cost almost nothing. Like the mag pouches themselves were like $5 or $10. And then it was weighed nothing. It was like just it disappeared. So you could put that into a bigger bag or like into a pouch or something or into a drawer or like a cabinet or something, and it just disappeared with your AK. But if you ever needed it, like, yeah, I want 8 or 9 mags if I've got an AK, right? If it's going down, I want 8 or 9 mags. I don't want a mag. Like, I'm not that guy. I'm not picking up a rifle with a magazine. So for me, that was perfect. Then I didn't have to have, like, if you think, oh, no big deal, just get a chest rig. Yeah, good luck. Or just get a plate carrier. Yeah, good luck. Those are massive. Like an entire backpack, and it's going to be bursting at the seams, and it's going to be heavy. Yeah, you got more capacity, but I'm not a SWAT guy. I don't need this every 15 minutes. So for me, I thought that was the coolest thing. And I audited a class. It's not like I was there. I was watching the class, but then I didn't get to shoot with it, I guess is what I'm saying. So as soon as I got home, got myself one of them pouches, started doing that, and Axe is where I was able to test it. And to me, like I say, I'm no karate chopping ninja or nothing, but for me, they kept the mags with me, and it wasn't ideal. It wasn't like having them glued to your belly, like it would be ideal, but it was the next best thing. And Axe allowed me to figure out that like it's the next best thing. So for me, I really, really liked Axe for that kind of thing. And people might have given me shit about it. I'm sure they did. Like, oh, look at that fat guy with a little purse. But I don't give a shit because I didn't give a shit, So and it wasn't like, I don't really think anybody even gave it a shit because they were worried about whatever weird thing they were running.
Yeah. So you were able to do that in those competitions, which I didn't have the opportunity. But what I did was I did it in class. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh no, that's the
I,
next best option, right? Because now you get to
yep.
reload from it, and you get to actually load. The people don't think about reloading, like putting the mag into the
Yep.
setup. Like, oh, this is the best setup ever because I can reload from it. Yeah, but if it takes you like 15 minutes to set up the reload, is that really, Anyway, that's the kind of shit you learn. Yeah, all kinds of
Hmm.
stuff.
So I got because you were using the landmine pouch, and then I was running the SKS or stripper clips using the freaking regular dump pouch, but from like Condor or something, because that's where my friend Sean was a Condor dealer. And this was at the time that Condor was kind of stepping out of being the airsoft gear company to making, stuff out of heavier denier. So they were going from like the cheesy stuff to like 500 to 1,000. And, but it was a dump pouch. Well, boom. And it had the drawstring top to the dump pouch and you clip it over your belt. Well, I was able to throw in, you know, a bust ton of friggin' loaded SKS clips. And I just tried, you stick your hand in it, you grab it, you put it, boom, shove it in the top of your rifle with the bolt lock back. And you kept running it. And I was able to test that out and realize, yes, it takes a while compared to anything magazine fed. It takes a while, but I'm in Jersey. I'm running the gun that's pretty much even now, even with whatever rules they put forth now, band proof. Semi-automatic, no pistol grip, no detachable magazine, iron sights. It looks like grandpa's gun, but it's still a semi-automatic with a very viable freaking cartridge. And for the first 10 rounds, I don't know many, civilian self-defense situations where you use a shoulder-fired weapon and fired more than 10 rounds effectively. So, not saying that you should be limited to that. I'm just saying it's not out of the realm that you can use that and actually defend yourself successfully, even though you're at a disadvantage depending on what they're coming at you with. And I was able to run it under pressure in a multi-hour class that included low light. And that's one of those opportunities people don't talk about, think about, I guess, because a lot of people don't train. They talk about it,
Well,
but
and
when it comes
training is like such a big term too. So like, okay, I went to a
to,
hunter safety class. Yeah, you've been trained.
yep,
Like I went to a CCW class. Okay, you've been trained. I went to a basic pistol class. Like, I'm talking like pistol
yep,
familiarization. Okay, you've been trained. Like I've been to a marksmanship class. Okay, you've been trained. Now a defensive pistol inside the home, like how to defend my home type of like class, like how to draw and how to things, but then without, let's say, the laws of like interacting in public, right? That's what usually the differential is between in the home and outside the home, I think. So you're
hmm
going to learn all the techniques of how to draw and be defensive in your tactics, but then let's not worry about you're not carrying your gun in public, so we're not going to waste all that time. But now you are carrying your gun in public, so now you're trained in that level. And then, I mean, all I've described is basic level shit, and I haven't included armor training. You know what I mean? Like I
hmm
haven't included any of the specialized trainings. And then there's like courses you can take in getting the gun clean and how to maintain it and that kind of thing. So much involved with training. So first off, there's that, right? So let's say somebody takes it from one of the realistic angles there, like self-defense inside the home, outside the home, right? Maybe a CCW class that touches on that stuff. And then of course there's occupational. I guess I didn't even include all the occupational stuff. And since that occupational stuff either overrides or is really adjacent or is literally a carbon copy of some of the civilian stuff, people have all kinds of interpretations of what their occupational training, you know, where it weighs in with the rest of it. But I guess what I'm getting at, that's the breadth, or that's like the diversity of it all. But then I don't know how to describe this. That's why I'm setting this up like this. There's all these different kinds of trainings you can take, but then you go to one class and then you can go to like level 2, level 3, right? So any of these kind of courses is going to have advanced levels, if nothing else, if not multiple advanced levels, right? So there's that level that you can take training into. But then you get into In this factor, I just kind of stumbled into myself. That's why I think it's so fascinating. But like, let's say CCW and let's say basic introductory CCW, you can go to one instructor and then you can go 6 blocks over and go to another instructor, go to the next town over and go to another instructor, same class, same instruction, same kind of students, but the diversity there is crazy different. And, you know, their focus, how they teach, you know, their motivation, their, like abilities, like all that stuff comes into play. So as a person who's taking training, like realize that you threw one dart in there. And if you even
Yep.
threw 2 or 3 more darts, you're barely getting a lay of the land. You know what I mean? There's like so many ways to take it. And here's another factor. Now we put time into it, right? And cost, I guess, and like realistically, how many people are so devoted that they're going to do more than 1 or 2 darts? And that's the part, is I'm trying to give people that 30,000 foot view that most of us are going to throw a dart or two and go, okay, I've experienced training, but realize you threw 2 darts into what I tried to describe there as like this big 3-dimensional mass of like potential. And the people that do dig into it, some of them really stick into it and become instructors even, or like just professional students or whatever you want to call it. And then other people like get 2 or 3 darts and they're like, this is too much. I got to quit. Like, I'll never, you know what I mean? Like, I'm the wrong person for this.
Mhm.
I'll spend the rest of my life doing this or the rest of my fortune doing this. So I have to quit. And other people are like, I'm just too, you know, they're not going to say lazy, but you know what I mean? Like, I just don't have it in to do this much.
Yeah.
I'll throw the 2 darts and be satisfied. And I'm only explaining this because, again, training is such a big thing. And so many
Yep.
of us are satisfied to go training, walk away.
Done. My granddad showed me how to run this gun, so I'm good. Well, he showed me how to run his, Ruger 22 45, and
Shoot
I
the
know.
cans on the fence type of thing, which is training. It's valid. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean,
Yeah,
99% of us, it's all we ever needed. But yeah,
yeah. I mean, can't put it out there and go, oh, that's not what I meant. No, no, you have to be more specific when it comes to things like that, because a lot of people don't want. Okay, hard work is something many people don't want to do. They don't think, because again, what they were given was your hunter safety course. All right, that's trained. It wasn't that hard, but I don't need to do any more because it was good enough. I hit where I needed to hit. Um, and don't know the mindset of defensive firearms training. Don't know shoot, move, get off the X, any of that stuff, because you went to the range and had your experience and was like, yeah, I'm good with that. It's like, yo, there's a lot more. I mean, that's what we often did in our class. And even though we taught basic stuff and introductory, when we did the firearms training introduction to defensive handgun, we were like, go to other people. There's so much more to this. Do not stop with us. What we do is we teach you fundamentals, marksmanship fundamentals, and firearm safety. That's our first like class to get you on the right way, unless you've had other training. And then we go into our defensive firearms class, and that's drawing, or moving with the firearm, or multiple targets and that kind of thing. We wanted to take you into it, but make sure you were good. My whole thing wasn't to create a John Wick. My goal in the classes was to create good students for advanced training. If you heard they came to me, you knew at least I covered the basics really well and they were competent, or more than competent with it. They could be trusted. You didn't have to like continually keep an eye on one of my students. Just knowing that they took our class. And that's what I was always encouraging people to take more. This is not the end of your journey. This is the start. And you hooked up with somebody that really cares. Because the way I looked at this and the way I look at diversity shoots and all the other things is, this may be, when you leave here, you may get into a gunfight in the parking lot. I had to be able to teach you how not to be a danger to yourself and others that don't deserve for you to be dangerous to them. And that's the way that's the way I run this event. I want to introduce people to good things and want them to be good people and handle themselves and keep their family.
Well, we're talking about an item that for the most part is, I don't want to say self-explanatory. The what do you call, like, the major or the, like, most basic of operations is pretty self-explanatory. In other words, like, any
Hmm.
human hand, even like probably people that are non-responsive mentally, can probably still put a gun in their hand and their finger will go to the trigger and pull, because that part's reflexive or whatever the word is, and like holding the thing, it's just putting something in our hands where our fingers are going to naturally curl on. And it seems like they spend a little time making these things ergonomic over the years, so like they're
Yeah, a little
made to
bit.
naturally fit, right, and balanced and all that. So I think the operation of a gun isn't too difficult. Now the specific, like, safe understanding of the mechanisms and like the complexity, if that's the right word, to like just to the level of like understanding that like all guns are going to have a trigger, all guns are going to have a barrel, all guns are going to have the basic pieces, and then that, what do you call it, like education, or instruction, like that kind of stuff, that once people know that, now they can go, okay, at least when I pick up a gun, I'm not going to pick it up by the barrel, because I understand that the barrel is the dangerous part. But if I pick it up by the safe part, I also don't want to let my finger curl around over here. So I'm going to do what people do, and that's keep my finger straight. Right. So like some basic safe principles or whatever. I don't know. That's one of those things where I don't know why I'm ranting. I guess I was going to try to get to the point of when the people who hate guns and gun ownership, uh, restrict or create like complete, you can't talk about gun zones, not just like no gun zones, but no longer can you even talk about that kind of basic level of,
Hmm.
is the word safety, like that basic level of awareness. Then that's what's been, that's the environment we live in, that's the world we live in. Like, they're not allowed to talk about guns in the school, to the point where you're not even allowed to say, when you see a gun, tell an adult. Like, they don't even bring up that level of gun stuff, right? If their thing is, if you see a gun, you just hide or like cry or something, or like immediately but they don't even consider clearing a gun, or understanding that a gun can be cleared, or that it can be identified visually to see if it's in operable condition or something. Like, they're not interested in any of that kind of education.
Oh, not in the least bit.
So it's kind of on us,
Not.
I guess, to a little bit, to like at least be aware that they're not going to allow that, and that we can either be susceptible to that, like we can either have to deal with that, or else we can use that to our advantage. And I'm not saying I know all the answers to the best ways to use that to our advantage, but I do know that if we aren't aware of it, if we're not paying attention to it, then they've effectively stolen that narrative. They've made it to where guns are this scary unknown that's dangerous. And we can either go, that's not fair, or we can shed light on the stuff that they're actively attempting to keep secret. And like I say, a lot of people
Yeah.
say it's not our job. We don't have to do that. Like, they should have to learn about guns if they're scared of guns. But that's a lot.
No.
It's a lot of
That.
asking
Well,
other
that's a
people.
lot to put on someone when they just walk in the door and don't even know that they're going to
Yeah,
be in
or
there.
don't give a shit at all. I have no interest in doing any of that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a lot
So
to put on.
now you're like, hey, not only do you have to come into this new thing, you need to jump right on this new thing and have it be your freaking life, like quest. Like, you need to climb down this rabbit hole and enjoy it. It's like, nah, that's really not how that works.
You must be as
Like,
interested as we are.
yeah, and no, that's not gonna happen. So hey, come to my event, or an event like mine, and have a great time, and hopefully you meet some cool people, and they go, hey, we're having a fill in the blank. We'd like you to come. Really? Yeah. Look, I know it's your first time shooting, but don't be nervous. We're have some good times. You had fun today, right? Yeah, I had fun. All right, cool. We want to see you again. And that's how you make friends, or as the guys used to joke, we create bromances. We just get some guys together, and because I'm not the sports guy, but some of my guys are. Some of them are cigar guys, some of them are bourbon guys. And when you have that Venn diagram of that includes firearms, well, there's other cool stuff along. Uh, so Nick and Angelo, my two board members, Thursday, as we're sitting around Thursday night after the event, smoking cigars, they made plans to go to the New York Car Show. Other guys were around, and it was like, yo, you want to go to New York Car Show? We go to New York Car Show. So that's what they're doing. They're going to the Barn Burner in Connecticut, cigar smoke. It's just things we can do and do together. And also, hey, Thursdays, Fridays, we have competitions. We shoot at so and so. So we can get people involved. We just don't need to have them be clones of us and believe every dang, you know, you need to believe this and shoot this way and do this. It's like, not really, guys. Not really. You can be in this a little or a lot, but we do this a lot. And we want you to join us. And that's how you build stuff together. That's how you build people skills. And we have to do all of that. It's incumbent upon us if we want this to work.
Now, here's another thing. We can capitalize on specialization and capitalism. Like I mentioned before, flexing our muscles, our money, our wallet muscle, our money muscle as capitalists. It's just like tug of war. Everybody's on the same side of the rope. You're all able and willing to push or pull, I guess, on a rope, right? But it's just not realistic. We're not Borg, so not everyone is pulling in unison like robots. It's it's one of the fun things about a tug of war. I don't know if people know what I'm even talking about. Do people even have tug of wars anymore? But like in real life. But a couple of times when I was a kid, I've been involved in tug of wars. Maybe in gym, definitely in the Army. I don't know if maybe some other shit like once in a while when we were young. But it involves taking a giant rope out and having enough people that want to do it, but or being made to do it, I guess. But when you actually do a tug of war, you find out. I think it's a team building exercise. That's one of the reasons they do it, right? Is because you realize that like what's going to happen is some people are dipshits and they're licking their hands or whatever they're doing, getting ready while everybody else is already pulling, and the other team is going to figure that out and yank on you when you're waiting, while you're watching people bicker or whatever. I mean, I'm talking like tug of war with a bunch of people, and obviously not like 4 people tug of war. But anyway, we got that going on where you can't expect everyone to be pulling all at the same time, right? Like that's not realistic, and it's not really ideal, because the best tug of war teams in my experience are people that figure out, like, if either intentionally or unintentionally every other person pulls as like a second team. Like, we're on the same team, but we have like team 1 and 2, and team 1 is pulling when team 2 is resting, and vice versa. And once everyone's on the route, like an actual system like that, you're unstoppable, because the other team is a bunch of people, individuals just yanking on a rope, and you figure out real fast that you're just pulling the guy's hands behind you if you're doing it wrong. You know what I mean? Or like you're effectively doing nothing if you're not doing it together. Like I say, it's a team building thing. I think now that I'm thinking about it, every time I've ever had to do it, it's because you're learning team building in the process. But people haven't, if you're just thinking about this, conceptualizing it, Tony's doing this, Katie's doing that, other people are doing other things. You're doing it this week, they're doing it that week. So, we're not all doing it all the time. That's not possible. It's not, nobody wants to do that anyway. But I guess what I'm saying is we get to capitalize on that. We get to exploit that. We can allow people to specialize in what they want to specialize in. And we have probably not enough, but we definitely have a buffet of people who are doing different things in the specialized channels that they're in. And then the rest of us, people, that's the rope, let's say, or that's the game. And then those of us who are standing there with the intention, and the good intention at least, or the ability to pull on that rope, can trickle in $5-10 at a pull. Each time we're pulling is when we can afford it. $50 for some people, $5 for other people, and $5,000 for people that have it. And that accumulates and becomes the that, like I'm saying, like that's the power that we have. And every once in a while we've done that when we've needed to, right? Like we're not able to do it. That's why I know that it's there, but we haven't harnessed, and we don't have anybody who's like orchestrating or conducting or whatever the word would be, like the effective use of that muscle, like the exercise of that muscle. How do we get effective when you want to be physically healthy? You have to exercise all the damn time, so that when you need to, you have that explosive burst of muscle, for when you actually need it, right? You exercise so that when you need it, you have the muscle tone and the ability, I guess the muscle memory and the whatever it is, the ability to, or the understanding of your own, what's the word, like abilities to be able to be effective when you need to. But you're often, unless you're like Superman or something, you're not called to be needed very, very often, but you're exercising all the time. As a community, we do stuff explosively sometimes effectively, sometimes like a bunch of spazzes, unfortunately, like we can call them when we see them. Like sometimes we do things ineffectively. Sometimes we accidentally do what we needed to do. And other times we're like really good at it and it looks like we practiced it before. But guess what we don't do? We never practice shit. And we almost, we're just all happen to have enough good people around that we're like, we rely on that. We're good. Like we win when we need to. But we win all the time if we, practice. Because then you have a bunch of people who barely know what they're doing, all doing it in the same way. That's unstoppable. Like we just don't even know what that's like because we barely had it. We almost have the opportunity during the comment periods, but I'll bet you right now with all the people that are watching, nobody. What's the potential that 50% of the people know what I talk about when I say comment periods?
Nope.
Right? Like maybe
Very
30%
low.
of the people remember comment periods because we haven't needed to use one in a minute, and it's not our responsibility to remember all these dumb things. Which I'm not bitching about. I'm just saying that's a fact of life. So that's one of those things. Like if we rely on us to be at like 100% maximum force just when we need to, that's dumb. Like we don't expect that of our firearms. We don't expect that of our first aid training, right? But we expect it of our advocacy.
Very true, sir. Yeah, somehow it all should work out. We should all get together and become Voltron immediately.
Voltron, yeah, exactly.
Together.
or sit there and watch Voltron happen while we cheer, because most people don't want to be part of Voltron. They just want to watch it happen.
That's true too.
So I'd have a last question here. Let's see. New York Outcast, I think, is answering the question I put out there. But have been having some conversations with folks about the next generation, right? So is the next generation doomed? Is the overall question, and then the second question or secondary question or like the angle to go in is, will guns save them? And I think we've actually addressed a lot of this. So maybe it's just as an effort, because Tony and I were like, hey, I always ask Tony if there's like a hard stop because he does other shows, and you are filming another show, I think, today. And he's like, yeah, 3 hours would be good. So here we are at 3.5 hours. But I'm gonna ask the last question. Last question. If they're are they doomed? And I said that, and I think most people understand what I'm saying, that the whole, like, what do they call it, like the screen generation, or like they're just coddled, or like they just didn't have the potential or the opportunity or the encouragement to go out and do the things we did, just because we didn't have the opportunity to sit in front of a screen. It's not as though we wouldn't all be sitting in front of a screen when we were little. We would have 1,000% sat in front of a screen playing video games if we could. We just didn't. Nobody could, right? It didn't exist, or we couldn't afford it, or our parents wouldn't let us. But if we could have, we would have. It's not like we're better than them or something. But and I'm saying we, like generations that grew up in the 80s and 90s and whenever it was, that we actually still went outside and played and stuff and did all this stuff where we got in trouble without being videotaped. I guess that's another aspect of it. Because not everything was being taped, we could get into some dumbass shit and do some dumbass shit. I mean, everybody, right? Like, I don't think I'm unique. Like, we did some dumbass shit and then didn't get arrested and didn't murder anybody doing it, right? So, like, no harm, no foul. Like, we learned our lesson and moved on. And there's just no way to, you know what I mean? Like, you can't catch something on fire, let's say. Let's just say something got caught on fire. And you panic the fuck and put the fire out and then figure out how to cover it or something. Let's just say something got covered that was put on fire. And then you run like hell. And then you didn't get arrested, let's say. And let's say the time or whatever was way past. But you know what I mean? If some little kid only hears all that in theory, like, how can you understand the, like, rush of panic? Like, I'm going to jail for the rest of my life and all that. and you know what I mean? But then not have to go to jail for the rest of your life and then forget about it for 20 years. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, they just didn't have the opportunity because the world isn't as, I don't know, rough or chaotic or raw or whatever it used to be. So anyway, that's my question, is like, are they doomed because of their situation, or will they at some point, like, I think every generation ever, so I keep saying us because we're kind of the same age, but, and I think most of our audience is of this age, otherwise they wouldn't be listening to us. But I'm sure that our parents' generation, their parents' generation, all thought at some point, like, my parents are dumb, we're better, like, we know better. So at some point, this generation is going to go, you sons of bitches, like, we missed out on a lot of stuff. We keep hearing about all the stuff you did. Now I want to go. And they're going to put their shit, either put their phones down or put their phones in their pocket and take them with them, because they don't need to put them down necessarily, but then just decide to go enjoy life. And at some point when they're 20 or 30 or however old they have to be, I guess at this point, 26 years old, let's say, they're going to go, hey, I am going to want to go on adventures. And then guess what? They're going to lean into adventures like we never even thought about, because they got the internet and they know the whole world is that they're, what I mean? We had neighborhoods, they got the world. And then they figure out like, and I know some of these people, because I watch some travel channels, like this is done. But people figure out like, oh, I can start a business in the United States or in some country that's affluent, because we're not the only affluent country, that is dealt with completely online, and then I can go anywhere in the world while I'm running that business. And I can be in some country where value is pennies on the dollar, and I can live like a upper middle class for the entire year on what I make in a month in the country where I'm running my business. And once a whole generation figures that out, are we like a completely different global culture? You know what I mean? And if that's a possibility, I believe that's definitely a possible. I don't think that's the only possibility, but I could see that being a possibility where like this whole generation, like the screen generation, says, no, I'm sick of this. Like, put down the screens, or like, let's go real life stuff and the screens, or whatever they, however they rebel to it. I guess the second part of my question is, if that's the case, is it possible that guns will be that thing that brings them together? For all the stuff we talked about earlier on the show, I won't repeat it all, but like, all the good stuff about guns that's, in real life that brings people together. And then, all the stuff we talked about. Is it possible that guns will be the grease that'll, or the light at the end of the tunnel that they walk towards, and then realize, oh yeah, we can put our screens down for all kinds of stuff? I don't know if that explained my question there, but that's my last question of the day.
Yeah, so what's happening is happening a lot faster than I think. Is these newer generation, Gen Z, they're not as pathetic as we claim they are, which is great. So I don't poo-poo them at all. Yay, guys and girls, get out there and be awesome, because they have, sadly, the stories from my generation, the generation after us, after me, that I guess some of these parents raised to be the softest children you've ever seen. Well, those kids have kids, and those kids are listening to grandpa. And they listen to grandpa's stories, and they're talking about doing things that we did, jumping bikes, being outside, building your own thing. And there's more and more of them doing that. Also, the generation after us that followed the rules, went to college, got the bills, had to pay off the student loans, worked in the offices, and they're coming to the same conclusion that many of us did, that I want to grow my own food, be my own boss, and not be locked into a desk or a career or work for someone else. So it's changing, but the society itself is fighting back because they need the good workers. They don't want people to believe they have options. So they keep showing us, the worst of generations, the laziest of generations, to try to convince you that you need to stay chained to a desk. You need to go to school and do a 4-year degree, and that's just the bare minimum, because you need advanced degrees to do yada yada blah blah, which is not true and only true for a few occupations. So I think we are pushing back and coming back, or maybe it's just the social media and stuff I consume showing me what I do. But I'm seeing younger and younger people do things like learn to work on cars, working on and bringing back, whole body style OBS trucks and stuff like that. And go, yeah, I don't want the new fuel efficient diesel engines that choke themselves to death and kill themselves. I want to drive the old school stuff because, in the 90s and the 2000s were peak car culture. They all are falling into that. Some of the people I'm watching, and they have a large following of youth, and I think it's pretty cool. Every generation thinks the generation after them is soft. And I've told you this, and I've told many, many people this. Stumbled across an article talking about this new generation of people are soft. They never had to deal with what we had to deal with. How are they going to deal with war? How are they going to deal with, having to grow their own food? And this particular article was written in like 1911. And it was the children and the people who survived and fought in the Civil War, talking about the latest generation of people that were to go on and fight in World War One, about how soft they were. And I'm like, wow.
Can you imagine though? Like I often, whenever I'm in a museum and thinking about this, you look at I always look at gear, for whatever reason. I like looking at like boots and gear that you'll be wearing and carrying and shit, backpacks and that kind of thing. And the Civil War, it was like leather and like cotton and things, but leather and metal, right? World War II,
Yep.
it kind of goes to like a little bit less leather, but a lot of canvas, and then metal. And then it wasn't until fairly recently that it went from like metal clasps and buckles and connections and rivets and shit everywhere to like plastic. But as soon as they remove the metal, let's say, and you, okay, well, there's less weight with the metal, it's just as strong with plastic. Okay, good. Now give them like 4 more mags. It's not like the load ever got lighter. It just got easier to give you more shit. But
The
then,
individual soldier's load has not gone down in weight since the Roman legions. It's just
no.
capability that went up.
But the thing is, you like look at the stuff, and it's like there's no ever like you look at going back to the Romans. It's like you fold a bed sheet with some lard and some like cornmeal or something, and then like shovel or whatever and a stick, and then you're like go march 100 miles and fight. You know what I mean? And then somebody comes along and goes, "Oh, I have boots and like a backpack." They're like, "You soft sons of bitches." You know what I mean? And then 70 years later, they're like, "My backpack weighs less than yours." And you're like, "You soft sons of bitches." Like, I have food that I can tolerate. Like, you soft sons of bitches. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, every generation has gotten lighter. I mean, I'm definitely agreeing with every old generation. Like, we are so soft. That makes me, it's totally off topic. But it makes me think of like when I saw some movie about boats or some documentary about boats. And for like all those years of the boats with the big sails on them, what do they call the big ass boats? Sailing ships or whatever.
Yeah,
But those were
sailing
around
ships.
for like hundreds and hundreds of years. And you never think about the fact that that's generations and generations. So like for 4 or 5 generations of a family, some guy was like the guy who oared, whatever they call, like ran an oar, you know, like dozens and
Mhm.
dozens of people. Sometimes it was slaves and shit, but some people that was like their gig was to like work on these boats. So like when you think
Mhm.
of like like I don't know all the different names of boat stuff, but like these people like for generations that was their job. Like my grandfather rowed a boat, his son rowed a boat, my dad rowed a boat, my kid will row this boat, and then they come along with a steam engine, and you're like,
Yeah.
what the fuck? Steam engine? No. Boats get oared around. You row boats
Yeah.
around. So
What
yeah,
ha-
the changes in
what
time are
happens?
crazy.
What happens when you run out of that fancy coal, boy? Who's gonna row?
Yeah. What about you're gonna put metal in a boat? It'll never float. What are you talking about? So
Yeah,
yeah,
everybody knows metal doesn't float,
we
boy.
definitely have
Yeah.
gotten
So,
softer and softer and
yep.
softer. But at the same time, every single generation has also been like, yeah, hold my beer or whatever. Like, yeah, watch this when they need to. And that's what I just can't see them being like, oh, we're inept after all this time. Like we've lost the ability to be mammals or whatever. Like they're still going to be like, I think if anything, they're going to be madder than hell. Cause kind of like, we were a small generation, the X, right? We're at Gen X, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So I was watching something that they pander to us because I'm that age or whatever. So I see stuff on my feed where it's like, poor Gen X, here's the reason why you're the best generation or whatever. And you have to watch them
Mhm.
because we are. And, it's sad for us.
Yeah.
Anyway, one of them was like, you're the generation that had to come home to an empty house all the time. And I'm like, well, of course, like I don't even know anybody that didn't come home to an empty house at those days,
Mhm.
just because your parents had other shit to do, I guess. So yeah, you'd come home and be by yourself most of the time until like whatever time your parents came home, and that was just the way it was or whatever. And how am I saying this? Because what was I saying that for? They were saying about how that's our thing, and because of that we're self-sufficient or whatever, whatever. There's some kind of pandering thing where they want me to watch their channel, right? So they're going to say how
Yeah.
Generation X is so great, but that's the kind of shit that we get. Oh, I guess I was going to say that, well, we became sort of self-sufficient or whatever, and we don't like rage about it. But I think at some point, if we had, like I say, we would have all been on phones. Like we're not better than anybody. We just didn't have them. But if we would have had cell phones, we would have come home from school and been on cell phones, like 1,000%, right? We came home and watched
Yeah.
HBO, but we would have all been on cell phones. I mean, that's why some of these movies exist in our worlds, because like Breakfast Club or whatever, we all came home and watched it like for 7 years after school, because that's what they put on HBO, and that's all we had. So anyway, I think that at some point, this new generation is way bigger than X was, but I think they're going to be every bit as pissed whenever we got to the point where we were like, we can do what we want. Like, we're sick of this. And
Mhm.
kind of as a generation, we just, decided to grow up. We just weren't big and we didn't have the internet. It all just happened for us, like in the 90s or something. But, grunge music or whatever the hell era, right? That's when we all grew up, I think, right? But this generation's all happening where it's all being documented and everybody's, experiencing it together. But I suspect they're going to get to a point where they're like, we're done. Like, nope, we're going to do what we want. And it might be in 17 different directions instead of a few, right? It might be in 1,700 different directions. But I think that we're going to experience something where that generation is like, no, we can do what we need to. We don't need to be held back all the time, or we don't need to be our hands held. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they'll just grow up wanting their hands held more. I mean, I think when people get doom and gloom, they think that somebody 4D chessed this whole thing and like arranged for these kids to be needing a helping hand all the time.
No, what I really believe is the system is set up, to create worker bees and to not encourage individual thinking, to not encourage people to be contrarians. But that's just how people set stuff up. I'm assuming how the school systems are set up to not encourage people to start their own companies or even think that way. Like that probably was something. I mean, they say what the Carnegie set up the school systems or something like that. I don't know. All I know is there's never as much doom and gloom as soft as we are. Our generation was, television and cable television, and all kinds of medicines and freaking childhood. What do you call that? Very little chance of your child dying during childhood.
Oh,
All
yeah.
of that stuff childhood mortality rate is really low, and almost everybody who wants a job has a job. And even if you have no money, a hospital will at least take you in doing it. We had all of that, and we still joined the military, did things, invented stuff, went to work for companies, and did our thing. We're no better than anybody else. We're just the older generation now, and we still probably couldn't hold a candle to what our granddad or great granddad did for work.
For sure.
It'll probably kill us. It'll probably kill us.
And you see like some of the craziness of like, again, looking at the scrolling on the socials or whatever, they'll be like, look at the new buildings, and they're just like boring glass squares. And you look at the old buildings and it's stone for one. But then you start looking at, like, I was watching McLeod from a TV show from like the 69 to 70 something. So I really like watching these shows because they're sometimes filmed in New York or whatever in the olden days. So you see the clothes and the cars and stuff. But I noticed like the buildings, and it's like, you didn't need to put like, some kind of a footing to this column that's all engraved and fancy. I mean, even if that was still bought in a factory somewhere, somebody's carving that. Like, there was no machine, I don't think, back in the old days carving it. Somebody took a chisel to that. And then they decided, hey, this is a building. Let's make it look decent. Like, let's put a cool thing here instead of just the foundation. Let's put something cool here. So yeah, they just had
that
a
wasn't
level
it.
of ability back then.
That was the power of the unions, bro. Hey, you're hiring stonemasons. Yeah, but it's poured concrete. You're hiring stonemasons. Okay, what are they gonna do? They're gonna put a balcony on the outside of this building where you can't get to it. They're gonna make it out of Italian stone. Why? It'll look good. Okay.
I didn't realize that was a factor.
Yeah,
I was
you
thinking
like
more of
braces?
it as like just the ability of them to take a chisel and make that when they were tasked with it as much. But you know what I mean? Like nowadays,
Yeah.
I mean, it's possible, but we are so specialized. You buy that from a factory that makes it. You're not going to hire people who can just use chisels,
Yeah.
and then tell them this is
No.
what you're going to chisel today.
Yeah, no, that ain't happening. Hey, we're losing that. Micro Works, if you want to actually help fight for that, Micro from Dirty Jobs actually is pushing for people working with their hands. So welders, I don't know, carpenters I know, welders I know, plumbers I know. So he's actually helping finance sending people, usually young people, through these schools so they can learn these skills and make money because we have a shortage of these skills. I mean, it's affecting even the Navy and the ships being built because we don't have welders like that anymore. We don't have electricians like that because the family business is sold out. Because again, I think this is the 4D chess part. They've convinced us that you should go to college and you don't need those skills. Those skills were dirty, and you want to work in office all day in air conditioning, nice outfit. So we've lost that as a country, and we need to get it back. And Mike Rowe does it. So if you want to participate, help out with what he's doing it continually, and I think it's a great thing. As somebody that works with their hands.
Dude, that's so interesting too, because you hear that quite a bit, and it is a thing, and it's kind of like oh, it's not my fault. Like I just perpetuate the idea that, you know, working with your hands is a waste of time or filthy or lesser, right? Whatever. But you can like wipe your
Mm-hmm.
hands of it because you're just saying it and you're saying the same thing everybody else is saying. But all it really takes when you start thinking about it is there's how many, like we're talking stone cutters, but you know, you could fill in all the other specialized artisan trades, right? All it really takes is that son or daughter of the artisan to decide no. And that is a end of that line. It's
Done.
possible that some other kid will get a spark and hook up with that artisan and pick it up, but that's a lot of ifs, right? That's 2 or 3 ifs. They have to
So
one do it and then be close enough to each other, and then it has to be on the timeline where it works. But yeah, it's so easy to just extinguish a match or two or a little single flame where some kid doesn't value what their parents are doing, and it only has to
yep.
be for like a couple of years, because 6 years later, once the parent retires and that kid says, oh shit, I should have, it's too late.
Mm-hmm. The equipment is sold off. Everything is gone. The number is no longer in the phone book. The website gone. What, are you going to start over now? So with my particular family, understand, mine's a family business, right? So it was my stepmother that started it, and she was working at Rutgers as a locksmith. She decided to start her own thing and broke away and started working out of the trunk of a car. And that turned into a truck, and then that turned into a van, that turned into a house, and that turned into a business. And along the way, she met my father, who's in construction. He actually built custom houses and custom pieces, and got hurt at work and couldn't work with that anymore, and became a locksmith. Her 2 kids came into the business working with mom in the back of the van, and breaking into houses by shoving them in the window if mom couldn't pick the door. Shoved them, and they learned to do that. And then I came along after I got out of the Corps and I did it. And then my sisters were raised in it. Well, my sisters have walked away and started other careers. One brother moved out of the country. He's no longer doing it. We brought in my nephew. He started doing it. So now my nephew and my brother are down in Florida. They're still locksmithing. And I'm doing it here, but I don't have a kid that's going to be doing it. So pretty much it's on my nephew at this point to do it another generation. He's having fun doing it, but he has other interest. I don't know if he's going to stay doing it. It's one generation, bro. Or maybe 2 if you count it, 2 generations, and then that could be over.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's
And
definitely
that,
a tentative. It's not not necessarily. It's not an, what's the word? It's not a. Yeah, it's a. It's a. I can't think of the word. It's not guaranteed that it's going to
no,
that the tradition's going to live, and it's not like just because you own the tools, something exists. Like that's half the battle, maybe, or a quarter of the battle, but knowing how to use the tools, and then all the other offsets are, how to run the business, how to source the materials, like how to determine what to buy, that kind of stuff is all the art, is part of the art, I guess. Anyway,
yep.
we are, I
All right,
asked one last question
get
and
out
then
of
we
here.
went off on like 7 tangents. I'm going to keep you here all night. So
Yeah.
thanks everybody for joining us. We do go live on a bunch of different platforms. I think you pretty much have to be on X or YouTube to comment, but no, I don't know. So definitely feel free to comment. You are allowed to ask gun questions. We'll answer them. We had Brooke here earlier. Thanks for joining. Plain Nut was the first one in here, as well as Pack Rat, who's out probably working. Ozzy. Oh, I didn't even see Ozzy in there before. Sorry about missing you there. That Ozzy was out there from Illinois. I Gold, Illinois Gun Owners Legislation Day, I think it's called, is coming up next month. New York Outcast was out there. Welcome from New York. And then recently here, Joe Smith was out there. So again, thanks for everybody who joins us live. If you're listening to this in the comments, I chop these up. I have a robot chop these up, and we got some controversial ones this last time. I threw like the last few into the blender. So I
Yeah.
always wonder when I throw them up there, because it's definitely, it looks for insightful shit. So it'll put something controversial, like it finds it and puts that as like the main short or whatever. And it uses like AI to go, this was like a 96% chance to piss people off, basically. So I'm like, all right. So I'll just post them just to kind of poke around, see what happens. So we don't have any bad comments or anything, but I hope I'm not bothering people. But I guess what I'm saying is you might see some of the shorts. Feel free to show up at the show and confront us on any controversial topics we might come up with. I definitely have opinions on 9mm and things, but 950. Want to end with that, and then let us know what's happening in the diversity shoots, and that'll be the end.
Yep. Next diversity shoot is the first Thursday of the month and the last Thursday of the month. That's April 2026. We're going to be at Gun for Hire Range on, I think it's the 4th. No, it's going to be the 2nd, April 2nd. We're going to be at Gun for Hire Range in the park. And at the end of April, we're going to be at We Shoot in Lakewood. Come by. We're going to have awesome prizes. We're going to have great pizza. And we're going to have fun. We'll be shooting cool guns, and we want to see you there and welcome you there. I'm also in the middle of April, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th, going to be in Houston, hosting the Second is for Everyone podcast on the floor of NRA. I look forward to seeing you there. I'm going to be interviewing friends, and Rob Pincus is already signed up. Going to be interviewing him, and we ain't even going to be talking about guns. We're going to be talking about stuff. So come by and say hi if you're at NRA in Houston. I'm going to be on Radio Row, or Podcasters Row as they call it. And I want to see you. And if you want to help finance all this travel, because good Lord, I need the help, because showing up and having a booth is not getting paid. Please help us with the trip. You can make donations at diversityshoot.com. Follow us on X at Second is for Everyone. Follow us on Instagram at SimonSaysTrain, and follow me on Facebook at Tony Simon or The Second is for Everyone. And I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. And listen to the podcast tonight. It'll probably get posted by Wednesday of Locked, Cocked, and Unfiltered. And every Tuesday, we do Gun and Gear Review podcast on the Firearms Radio Network. Yep, that's everything. Appreciate it.
Right on. Thanks for joining us.
GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We also have mugs, shirts, and posters with designs that we've made live. Of course, we have patches. Every Friday is Free Patch Friday. We appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping at GearWebsites.com.